All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Hump Day, middle of the week.
Mike.
Yeah, baby. It's welcome in. It's Gary and Matt with Jimmy as well. We also are a day away from the Masters. I don't think there's any other, if you're a big-time sports fan, I don't think there's any other event that grips you like the Masters. I mean, you could say like the Super Bowl or if your team's playing for a national championship, but how many other sporting events and the Masters with the music? By the way, this will be the 70th straight year that the CBS has had the Masters. That's incredible.
That is.
But every time, like, you could have the TV on in the background and the music comes on, you stop.
Yeah.
Like,
pressure goes down.
They start running commercials in February, and you're like, huh? Or you're like myself. Yesterday, I had a good Masters day. Because I spent, and this is why I say that there's no other sport that grips you kind of like the Masters.
Sure.
Even for the like fringe golf fan or just sports fan, I spent a good, I would say 5 minutes yesterday poring over a mowing report. I don't think I've ever done that before, except for the Masters. I don't like.
Not even in baseball?
I don't even like when they do like a special display in the outfield or something like that. I don't sit there and stare at it. But I spent about 5 minutes yesterday going over the mowing report from yesterday at Augusta National.
I saw that tweet. I saw the breakdown of the inches of what the rough to the fairway to the green is. I'm going to be honest with you. I like golf. I wouldn't be able to tell what was good grass and what's a good height or what's fast or what's slow. If I'm being like, I'm not looking at it and be like, ooh,
I bet in 20 years
tall
he will.
rough. Like I wouldn't know. Now I should know,
You'll
considering the fact that I play mostly out of the rough when I play golf. So I should know. I mean, if you got me there on the ground, I could tell you whether or not this is high quality rough. But I did see the mowing report. I myself also just decided to turn on live from the Masters just to see the sights and sounds of Augusta and for them to pour over press conferences that basically were mirroring and Xeroxing each other. You know, oh my God, it's so great to be out here. It's so beautiful. You can't beat it. You know, I'm really hoping to compete.
Except for Morikawa.
Well, Morikawa, I did see that. That was interesting. There's some interesting comments going after the media, and I get where he's coming from the perspective of maybe you can't cherry pick stories, and not only when I'm playing bad should you expect me to come up to you and talk to you. It also should be when I'm playing good, and it's your job. I mean, I don't know. It's a really weird and contentious argument to have during a very important week in your career. Regardless of it all, I agree with you. I would say the Masters is the best sporting event that year in and year out grips fans that may not be hardcore fans of that sport. I think every 4 years you see that with the Olympics and the World Cup, but the Masters is the by far the one year in and year out consistently that gets you in. I love Wimbledon, but it definitely not at the same level as the Masters. I'm so excited. I get my pimento cheese today.
Well, that's where I'm going here.
What a 2 days for you. All right.
So this is why that event like grips you as a sports fan, because it's such a special, the hallowed grounds to be a patron at Augusta National.
It's very pretty.
I have a neighbor, and this neighbor who I know, I would consider he's probably a P1er of 1620. He listens to all the shows.
Good morning, neighbor.
He's put up with me for 12 years.
Fair enough.
All the different people that have worked with me. He's like, Jesus. He goes, man. That's what he tells me. Like, hey, what happened?
Thanks.
But he gets in touch with me like 4 or 5 times a year. Like we'll reach out with a phone call or a text.
Okay.
It's when he wants Nebraska football tickets.
Fair enough.
Wondering if I'm going to use my basketball tickets. This year it was, hey, I'd like to come to an Omaha game.
Fun.
But the one thing he does, and I'm fine. He's a nice guy. I told him, you can afford season tickets, but whatever. And we golf together, but he always contacts me right before the Masters because we have a little pool that we're together. Or as I did last year when I got the taste of the Masters last night, he said, "Come over."
Oh,
so his taste of the Masters arrived. Yours is slated to arrive today.
It's arriving today.
So
will you live tweet the meal?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I will. I'm not going to take a video, but I will rate. I will have a tweet today. I will.
Well, you got to make the meal.
10.
I'll schedule my day around it.
Yeah, because so there's so as we've told you, there's a lot of cups The
Yes.
2025 cups, there's a lot of cups. There's a lot of coasters. There's a lot of tissue paper.
Yep.
And then you get to the 3 tubs of egg salad, pimento cheese, and pork barbecue.
I'm looking forward the most to the pimento cheese. I think that easily I will eat the most of the barbecue. I think that will easily be the one that I consume the most of. But once again,
do this next year.
you
guys
talk
have convinced
about
me.
the hollowed grounds, which, by the way, I don't know if you've seen those YouTube videos on the Masters YouTube channel where they like break down like Amen Corner and the concession stands and pass one. Great YouTube series that I've been kind of having on in the background. Awesome watch. Pimento cheese is the Masters. Like, to me, when I think of part of the Masters, I think of pimento cheese. You don't have, I would never have a pimento cheese sandwich.
You're not going to like it.
You don't think I'm going to like it?
I think you're going to really, yeah.
The egg salad was really good.
Okay.
I
like egg salad.
Just judging off some of your taste, I don't think you'll like the pimento cheese, but I think you'll like the egg salad.
How's the texture? This is such a weird question. How's the texture of the pimento cheese? Because I get thrown off by texture, not
mushy.
taste.
It's okay, but I think we had this discussion last night. Does the bread make the pimento cheese sandwich? If you're not familiar with pimento cheese.
Probably. I'm going, literally not a joke, right after this show, I'm going straight to Target to get the white Wonder Bread for the pimento cheese sandwich. And then I'm also getting the ingredients. We're making azaleas. We are going all in. So I have
He's so much better at 23 than we were.
I don't know. This is like, I have money now. I don't have to ask the parents if, hey, can you get the taste of the Masters? I'm allowed to do my own little side quest with the chunk of change that I make. And so this weekend,
shout out,
I'm not going out. I don't really have any interest in hitting the bars and anything. I just want to drink azaleas and eat pimento cheese. And I'm a okay egg salad guy. I don't love egg salad. I think it
not like Winnie and Pee Wee.
No, I'm not like holy. I know some people who love egg salad who are like, man, that's like my niche thing that I enjoy. I'm not really all in that, but hey, I'm excited for food. I like food, and I'm gonna have unique food this week.
It was good. It was fun last night. I mean, I had the same thing last year. So you get the cookies and then the pecan and caramel popcorn that come with it.
Have you put the pimento cheese on top of the barbecue?
No.
Okay.
I'm not
a mix and match.
I get you.
I'm not a huge
they don't go
pimento
together.
cheese fan.
Okay.
But you're kind of forced to. It's the only time of the year I eat egg salad as well.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm going to try. I mean, this is probably same. I'm not going out of my way. I don't go to the deli and I'm like, I'm not like, give me a pound of egg salad. So these are all, I mean, look, this is part of the reason I ordered it. These are things that I really wouldn't have on my own volition.
Oh, it's a great
outside of the barbecue. I'm excited for the barbecue.
It's a great, I mean, I got it last year. Tom got it last night, or he got it this year. I mean, it's unique. Like you don't buy the taste of the Super Bowl.
No.
Which would be pretty cool though. Like
Bush
you know
Light.
what? No, your taste of the Super Bowl is like stuff from New Orleans. But the
Masters, I got you.
But the Masters has it every single year. Here's the other thing about the Masters, and if anybody has been there, and if you would like a +1 to go to the Augusta National, I'm available.
You'll make them laugh. Yeah,
I'm good for entertainment. I'm a vibe guy.
Just the standpoint of there are no phones.
Yeah,
like Isn't that nice.
Well, yeah, I don't think I could do that.
I'm on to Augusta National here.
Oh,
first of all, one thing it does, I imagine, I've not asked this question, but when there is a no phone policy, I got to imagine trips into the bathroom are very quick because there is not a time now that I don't go to the bathroom that I'm on my phone. Okay, that's just like a rite of passage, and you can hands-free cell while you're peeing. You can do that.
Sure.
But I got to imagine the bathrooms. Like it's in and out because you go anywhere now.
But do you really use your phone in the urinal?
But you're looking at it, so it takes time. It takes up time.
Maybe like
looking up
15 seconds.
Oh no, there's
What's
people.
The weather when I get?
You know
out
what? There are more places now I see where you go to the bathroom as a guy. I feel bad for women because your lines are a lot longer.
Oh my God,
and
always.
And I've been told that it's a little bit more difficult to get in and out as a female compared to a male.
Sure.
That's a whole nother. They'll talk about that on the comedy.
It's
show
all sources.
10 and 2.
We're working to confirm this.
But there are more places now, and I've seen this at ballparks where they have a ledge above the urinal.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can set your beer or your drink, And then you can maybe put your phone there and you can scroll or whatever, or, you're doing the one-handed phone. So I got to imagine the bathrooms at the Masters are in and out. But here's the thing that I'm on to the Masters about, because they do have a little uppity. There's part of the uppity.
Yeah, I think a little is an understatement.
Some people would feel uncomfortable.
I mean, the broadcasting rules, can't say back nine, can't say fans.
They have us. They have us. And it's not like we're going to stop watching.
No,
we're like,
no, God, no.
You know what? John Rahm went in the portal, so I'm not going to watch the Masters. By the way, the livers have it good. Remember we thought they would be in livers have it good.
Okay. Yeah. You said livers.
Not on your body, but on
not
the
mine
tour.
Currently.
So I'm on to the Masters about their phone policy, okay? So they say, hey, be present. You don't have your phone. Maybe talk to somebody, which is true. If you've ever gone a while with no phone, you actually communicate with people and, you do things that maybe you don't do. You talk to your family. You talk to your kids. You talk to your pets.
Your quality of life is actually slightly improved.
You do whatever.
Wow.
But I think I've thought about this. I'm onto this with the Masters. Okay, I like it. You're seeing more and more schools are like no phones in schools, and
we didn't have phones in
hands-free cell when you're driving. I always preach safe cell. It is not. They don't promote the phones as it's a distraction to the golfers. You know what they do? They promote the no phone policy because they don't want pictures out of Augusta being out on social media. They don't want your own tweets. They don't want your own Instagram. They want to control everything. So while they present that there's no phones and it's really cool and it makes the moment, and you don't have Tiger teeing off and there's 1,000 people behind him with their phones up in the air, that's partially true. But I also think they want to control all the content that comes out of Augusta National.
I disagree. I just think it's uppity arrogance. I just think it's all high and mighty, and they want to be like, no, we're different here than other places. We're in Augusta. This is how we do things. And this is that's what I think it is. I don't think they're trying to control the PR market or anything like that. I think they're just trying to act like they are, they are the Superman of the golf world, which they are, and they get to do it. And you know what? I would fold like a chair in a kid's soccer game. Okay. Here's my phone. I don't care. Get me on the hallowed grounds. They have, they act. I'm going to tell you something right now. How they talk about their own course and how they talk about their own event. It makes me roll my eyes a little bit. At the same time, it's such a damn cool course and such a damn cool tradition that I'm a sucker. I don't care. I don't care that I slightly roll my eyes. I will be there. I will watch. I will be glued to my TV. I will stuff myself with pimento sandwiches as all of my winter bets just flush down the toilet.
He's really not going to like it.
Even before Sunday. I'm really nervous, guys. I'm not
going to lie. I'm kind of nervous for you because I'm kind of with you.
I've hyped myself up. I've hyped it up.
So maybe you ought to try this before you you say your package is supposed to arrive today.
It's arriving. I think it's at 11 a.m.
Okay.
At my neighbor, at my roommate's house, and then he's picking it up and bringing it over. Justin brings something up, and this would be a suggestion, is at Chick-fil-A, they do have the honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich. He said it is fire. I've never
when they have it available. They probably this time of the year they have it available.
I don't know.
It's a spring delicacy in the South.
They had it available in the summer.
I have health issues due to food. Let me look it up.
So
I never had it.
Maybe you want to drive down to 76th and Dodge, grab yourself one just as a little tease.
I'm not a Chick-fil-A guy.
Really?
It doesn't.
You hate the service?
No,
that's
the best part.
It's too fabulous.
My pleasure. More like
that'd be
your
a very
pleasure.
New York thing of me. They don't yell at me enough. They're too nice. I don't get it. I like to be screamed at by a dude behind the counter when he's making my pastrami sandwich. No, it doesn't sit well on my stomach. I don't know. It's just something about the bread or the breading or the chicken.
It's the stuff that they put in the chicken. We'll talk during the break.
There's just certain things. There's certain like Chipotle. Unfortunately, I love Chipotle. I can't have it that much. It gets on my. No, it does not love me back. Chinese food doesn't love me back. Arby's doesn't love me back.
Whoa.
For whatever reason,
a lot of things.
McDonald's has always taken care of me. Has always nourished my soul. Has always been okay. I
don't think it's there right now, but I have seen that sandwich.
Yeah, it's like
I'll try it next time.
It's like a specialty. It's like the Shamrock Shake. It pops in and out.
Weird. It's a weird looking sandwich.
I've eaten weirder.
I don't know.
Pimento cheese isn't something you're going to take as a Picasso.
Yeah.
But I look
You're
at
not
it
just gonna
and
eat
it just
tubs of it here.
didn't when you look at a Wendy's, when Wendy's shows up on the commercial, they've perfected making a good looking burger for Wendy's
Well,
commercials.
they perfected a burger that looks good in a commercial.
Exactly.
The stuff they inject into food to make it look
Hey,
really, really good.
We're not getting technical here. All right. It's fast food.
I've seen that documentary.
Okay. But the pimento
I don't blame
cheese,
them. I mean, you got only one shot.
Yeah.
the hot honey pimento does not look good on TV. I do not look at that sandwich from Chick-fil-A and feel like, oh, I want to put that in my belly. They've failed in that regard. But I am nervous. I put this pimento cheese on a very high pedestal on my mind, and it's almost like when you're like going to a water park as a kid and you've hyped it up and you're like really, really excited and you think you're going to have the greatest time of your life, and you go there, and even if you have like a good time, it's disappointing. That's
like
where
most
we're
Super
at.
Bowls.
I enjoy them cups and coasters. There's a lot of cups and coasters.
I see. That's why I bought it. Let's be
To get the cups and coasters?
legit, not a joke.
It's like a Target run. Yeah. Okay.
I bought it because we need cups to drink. We don't have big enough cups, so this was our way of we're just going to live off of 15 Masters cups for as long as we live at that place.
Coming up a little bit later, John Walker will join the show. Portaling season is going on. Creighton was kind of quiet yesterday. Nebraska was not quiet.
No.
But we'll talk to John Walker not only about Creighton basketball, baseball last night. Creighton 17-game midweek win streak came to an end. Power of the Summit League. North Dakota State got a run in the ninth, as you heard, over an 11-80, and they beat Creighton 3-2. North Dakota State baseball is pretty impressive. Now, they did fall. Omaha beat them 2 of 3 over the weekend. But for a team that never plays at home, that's a pretty good baseball program. Walked into the old Chuckster last night and beat Creighton. So John, I think, was there. So we'll talk to him. Also, we'll get his thoughts on Kirsten Bernthal Booth and maybe Terry Pettit's Facebook post, which... Wow. Hello. We'll have some thoughts on that. John will stop by coming up at 9, and then Brandon Vogel at 9:40. As yesterday, Nebraska football ran around. People looked at him, talked about him. We had good discussion from Marcus Satterfield, Rob Dvorak, among others. Heinrich Harburg that spoke in Lincoln that we will discuss, and we'll also discuss with Brandon Vogel. That's the lineup brought to you by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. The other thing about the Masters and their phone policy, can you imagine if that was instituted elsewhere in America? Now, I've been told just because of, I think it's I don't want to say a rite of passage. I think it's just a thing you do. European soccer, most people will have their phone. They will do something before kickoff, and then they will put it away and then bring it back out after kickoff. I've been told that happens a lot with European soccer. It's just a thing.
Like, okay.
But like you can't have a phone at the Masters. I played in a golf event last year, and you had to have your phone to do scoring on. And I'm like, wow, there's places that they say, oh man, put your phone away, be present, enjoy the game. But yet they have advertisements that tell you either to scan a QR code or to do something else with your phone.
I am so out on the QR code menu at restaurants.
Coming back.
I'm not a fan.
It's coming back on scoreboards.
I know.
Things like that.
And also, now I will say this. I like the QR code at sporting events. I'm a big fan of where you can scan the QR code and then you can order from your seat if you're lucky enough to sit in one of those types of seats.
A couple places in Benson do that. They don't come to your table until they have your order.
Oh, really?
Yep.
There's not even an exchange between the wait. See, I don't like that. I like talking to my waiter. Do you talk to your waiter or your waitress?
It depends if they're engaging.
I like to be friendly.
Some just want to get in and out.
I like to make a joke or anything or something like that, lighten the mood a bit. I'm not a QR code guy. I never have been. You won't get me to be there. Now, I have been to comedy events where they're filming specials and they take your phone. And so
you got to go see Kevin Hart at Baxter Arena in June. I went to the Kevin Hart concert downtown. They take your phone.
Yeah. So I've done that. Now that's different because when you're in a stadium like that, you're not talking to anybody new. You're not looking at your neighbor, like trying to make friends or anything like that. You're just sitting down and listening. And like in between acts, I find myself twiddling my thumbs. So that's kind of like annoying. Like I'm not a fan of that. But I think that
but as a performer though, and this has come up quite a bit with music artists, is they want you to be present. They want you to enjoy the show, not be on your phone. Yeah, they understand that it helps their brand if you're putting stuff on Instagram, Twitter, whatever. But if you're a performer and like, let's say you are a comedian, you're on a stage and you can see, like at the Chai would be a little bit more difficult
Sure.
because most of it is blacked out. But like if you're, let's say at the Funny Bone and it's a little bit smaller room, so you can kind of see the whole room and you're working the room.
Yeah.
I can see as a performer, if somebody is banging on their phone while you're trying to tell jokes, how irritating that would be. Now, let's say they're a parent, something's going on at home, step out of the room.
Yeah.
So I get it both ways of a performer doesn't want people to have their phone because you know what? They are there to perform and they want you to pay attention. Then others are like, hey, take all the pictures you want,
I know.
tweet out videos, all of that kind of stuff.
I just think it's an etiquette thing. At some point in America, we've lost just some basic etiquette. I feel like we just need, like, no, I'm just saying.
Well, welcome to
like,
the USA.
I know. I just feel like
You just get here?
And no, I've been here
Just
for a while.
arrived?
But I mean, I was
Make
a
sure
big,
you got your papers.
I was a big etiquette man.
That star.
Growing up, like it was all about
license.
etiquette. I feel like we need a memo. I feel like we need like a cross country email from like the government being like, "Hey guys,
Too soon.
don't park the cart.
No, too soon.
Don't-
Too soon on the government-wide email. Seriously, I'm like, yeah.
Don't park the cart 30 feet, 10 feet away from the green.
Imagine if
Hey,
in Lincoln,
hey, hold the door open.
imagine in Lincoln if they had a no phone game at Memorial Stadium. Now,
Ooh.
it might relieve the IT guy who has to hear the complaints about the Wi-Fi
Yeah.
isn't strong enough. But what if they had a no phone
Can
game?
I be honest with you? It's already a no phone game over there at Memorial Stadium.
There's a lot of people that are on their phones.
I can't get on. What cell service do they have? What provider do they have? I got T-Mobile. Doesn't work for me at Memorial. I get nothing. I got people who are worried about me. My mom gets panicked because she doesn't hear from me for about 5 hours.
You mean you don't get the text from Husker Eddie who's sitting in the stands going, "Hey, what's the media password?"
No. Well, that was the nice thing. I've been to a couple of games where I'm on the media side
You too, huh?
of the stadium.
Jimmy, stop. I don't need no Ray Charles today, even though I love this. All right,
I don't.
continue on.
But I'm just saying, I've sat on the media side, and that's been nice because I get connected to the Wi-Fi. But I've been on the opposite side, and I don't get connected. And I literally, I walk out of the game. There's nothing crazier than when you're walking out of Memorial Stadium and you hit the Wendy's on Q Street.
You get
and all of a
56
sudden-
texts.
It takes you that long?
Oh yeah, my phone's a lemon. My phone is terrible. My phone is awful.
Well, you
The
better.
cell service I get
if you need a new one, you better get it now.
Oh,
You
is
got
there
that
a-
money.
Or wait till we're all working on iPhones and screwing those little screws in.
What's going on with phones? I did not hear about this in the news.
They're listening to you.
Good
Good morning, phone.
You might, flip around the channel here. You might see something.
A lot of
Okay.
lights.
Well, I'll have to look up what's going on with phones. I'm a little worried
It
now.
can cost, was it $30,000?
Just stick to the cheese.
You're yanking my chain. What's going on? What's costing $30,000?
We're gonna
What's
gonna
not?
produce iPhones in this country.
Oh, okay. Oh, the
Yeah.
prices are gonna go
Yeah.
up because it's gonna be harder to buy. Yeah. I told you guys
Still
before,
got that brick phone at home
Yeah.
somewhere.
I like
Bring back the landline.
like I told you guys before. I once I break this phone, Mama told me, she goes, "You're off the plan. You got to fend for yourself. You got to pay for your own provider." So I don't know. I'll be a free agent probably tomorrow or in the next 3 months. I'm telling you right now, my phone could die at any moment. It could die right now. I mean, that thing is teetering on its life.
All right, a little bit later, John Walker and Brandon Vogel will join us. We'll talk some football today. We'll talk some basketball. The portal giveth, the portal taketh away. The portal makes you angry.
Yeah.
The one and done era compared to the era of flipping your roster every year. And why in the hell would you recruit high school kids anyhow?
I know.
And Pop Isaacs has a new home. Will that mean his commercial on TV with Kalkbrenner is going to be off today?
That's
Probably.
awkward.
He's no longer one of us.
Not loyal.
He's
Not
a-
loyal at all. How dare he go to such a prestigious program over the last decade and try and win a national title? No loyalty.
Think he'll go to Houston and play defense?
I just hope he goes to Houston and plays.
He will.
Well, doesn't, is healthy. I just hope he's healthy. I really do. I hope he's healthy.
All right, we're off and running on a Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, everybody. Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
in the sky. There ain't a cloud in the sky.
Of your music history, and you know this. Nicely done.
We will be seeing the
It's
sun
a
today.
beautiful good day.
We got 80s in the
Yeah.
forecast.
74 today.
Banger. They need tell you where they need some warm weather is on the north side of Chicago. It has been 34 and 38 degrees the last 2 nights against the Rangers. But the Cubs have won 3 straight series
Let me tell you
wins.
something, man. They got a little baseball team over there on Clark and
I know.
Addison. I mean, now I was watching the game and I said out loud, I go, man, they got some solid pitching, they got some good defense, and then Happ made an error and left, and Tucker made an error and right, and I go, all right, maybe I should shut my mouth about the defense because I'm jinxing this team. But they're a bunch of hitters. They just got hitters. They need a little more pop, but they got dudes on that team.
They have the number 1 run differential right now. So they're 10 more runs plus because they're plus 32. Yankees are plus 22. They're stealing bases.
Mm-hmm.
Council still has some questionable bullpen decisions, but they also are walking like Matt Shaw. 7 straight games he has walked. And I finally, like last night, watching that game, and the bullpen wasn't great, but they won 10-6 against the Rangers. So they've won 3 straight series. It's almost now I'm comfortable because it has been odd for the longest time seeing Craig Counsell in Cubs gear.
I will never be comfortable. That's not true. If they go ahead and they win a lot, obviously I will get very comfortable very quickly. Okay, if they win a World Series, I will be the most comfortable with him being my manager. Okay, well, I mean, even if they make the playoffs a couple times, I'm just so used to, because especially for my generation, I really do think the Brewers, for the people who have grown up my age, are kind of exceeding the Cardinals in a way as the rival. I think there are people that I know who are big Cubs fans who associate the Brewers more so with a I can't stand them rivalry with the Cardinals. This is just a my age thing.
Yeah,
I still can't stand the Cardinals more than there was one point where I couldn't stand the Cardinals more than the Packers. But to see that guy, he was like the boogeyman in my head for so long, because the Brewers would trot out teams where you're like, okay, half the lineup is new and half the bullpen is new, and they got these starters, and you're like, can they really piggyback off these guys year in and year out? And they did, and it was all you ever heard about was he was the face of that team. I mean, Craig Counsell was the Brewers, and then to see him in Cubby blue, it's still I don't know. I got to shake when I see it. I still got to I'm not used to it.
So this homestand with the Padres and now the Rangers. And the other thing is the Cubs have a brutal April schedule, and so far so good. They're also stealing bases. Like last night, they had a long discussion about Counsell, and so they show him a lot. I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to get more comfortable. I still hate the Cardinals. I always hate the Cardinals.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm pissed that the Cardinals ruined my Skenes day yesterday.
I know, 5 round.
But the Brewers are the one where, God dang it, how do they keep doing it?
I know.
Well, Paul Skenes, by the way, and I'm sure on Pittsburgh sports radio today, where I wonder if Aaron Rodgers announces that he's going to be a Stiller today because Pat McAfee's event is tonight in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And Aaron Rodgers is supposed to be there.
You called that, by the way,
it's been quiet.
4 weeks ago.
Shedeur shows up in Pittsburgh, and people are like,
And by the way,
Aaron Rodgers is going to be in Pittsburgh tonight.
I have no shame. I stole your take, and I used it amongst some of my friends. They were talking about Rodgers. I go, watch him announce him. Watch it. He's got an event in Pittsburgh with McAfee. Watch him go up and announce that. So now I sound like the smart guy, thanks to you predicting that a couple of weeks ago. So thanks.
But watching Skenes last night, so it was cold in Pittsburgh, and there was nobody at PNC. Oh, it was like 30 degrees, and that was his first home start.
Fenway looked miserable.
He has reached the level where if he struggles, it's shocking.
Yeah.
If you see Ohtani strike out multiple times, by the way, people think, and I'm with this, I think the Dodgers are done. They've now lost 3 in a row. They got beat by the Nats last night. They've lost that series. I think the Dodgers should pack it in. But back to Skenes.
They're 9-4.
Yeah, they've lost 3 in a row. They're done. I imagine they're done. I think
the Padres got the West wrapped up.
The Dodgers look like they're done. They look like they're struggling. That is now just going to go all south.
No,
I'm trying to speak it into existence here.
No, that is not a thing.
But Skenes gives up 5 earned runs last night, and he looks human. And you're like, oh my God, he's still throwing a sweeper at 88, and he's throwing his splitter at 98. But I would imagine on Pittsburgh sports radio today, because this would be a good one to just, light up the phones. You'd be like, you know what? He has struggled since he was on GQ with his girlfriend.
Can you imagine if he played in Philly?
She has messed him up. Should not have been on GQ. Look what Livy Dunn did to Paul Skenes.
If he was a Philly, WIP today would be absolutely incredible. Let me tell you something, John. He's got to stop taking pictures and start studying what pitches he's throwing. It's ridiculous. That's what it'd be. Here's how I know you're right about how it's almost shocking at this point when he's bad. I don't know if you saw this, but like the ESPN ticker, the top headlines, the fifth headline is Skenes ships career worst 5 runs and lost to Cards. Okay, that's a top headline.
Yeah, he had never given up 3 runs in an inning until last night.
But like the fact that that this guy so young in his career has been so dominant, where one bad start ends up being considered a top headline with like people being fired and like tragic things happening, and it's like, oh, by the way, he was bad yesterday. Look how shocking this is.
He should have walked off the mound after that poor performance and thrown a grenade. He would have moved up from 5th to about 3rd. The other thing that happened in baseball yesterday, among other things, is Cole Reagan's dealing.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he had 11 strikeouts for the Royals. The Twins are in trouble. The Twins the Twins can't hit. They can't field. They're 3-8. But on the Royals side, and the Royals have won 3 in a row. Reagan's was great last night. Bring that man to AAA. Did you see what Jack Caglione did yesterday?
464.
So 468. He hit a home run to AAA last night. He hit an absolute bomb. So Caglione, Jack as we like to call him, formerly of Florida.
Yes.
Champs. When will you be in AAA, my friend? Because he's had 15 at-bats in AA for Northwest Arkansas. He's hitting 400. He's got 2 homers and 10 RBIs.
Sounds like a spring training stats.
Hey, please,
before the end of April.
Please do not skip Omaha.
Yeah.
Even if you're in Omaha for a month, please. Jack Caglione will affect attendance at Warner Park more than Bobby Witt Jr. did.
That's high praise.
Because Bobby Witt Jr. was here for a year plus, but there was never, even though he was the top prospect and their top pick, there was not as much of a buildup outside of like if you're a Royals fan, and you kind of had a sense he was going to be here for a whole year, so it wasn't like a sense of urgency. I got to get out of the ballpark before he's gone. Kind of like when Skenes was in Indianapolis last year. Like when Caglione gets here, Caglione is not going to stay here, and so I think people will be like, "Oh, I got to go see him. I got to get out there, and I got to see him before he's called up right before the College World Series."
I have already talked to multiple people that his first game we are going to. Like that's how big of an impact he's had already. And the guy's not even called up yet. He's had, what'd you say, 15 at-bats in AA. And you have people already talking about, hey, when he gets here, we are going to go. I mean, he's got the makings of being a superstar in the MLB. And it's just absolutely incredible when you can have that superstar power in a smaller market like Kansas City. And then add on top of that, if he ends up panning out, you could have one of the best duos in the MLB, period, end of story, playing in Kansas City, which would be absolutely incredible for the league to give, the attention of a small market like that, to have 2 guys who, once again, Jack Caglione has the ability to be an MVP candidate, I'm not going to sit up here and say that the guy 15 at-bats into AA is going to be an MVP one day. That would be an absolutely
I think that's what you were saying.
Ridiculous, but he's got that potential. But you're absolutely right. When he comes up AAA, you're sprinting. You're sprinting there, hoping and praying that he's not, hoping and praying he doesn't skip and he just goes straight to the MLB.
Speaking of baseball, because we like baseball. We don't like Zack Hample, but we like baseball.
Yeah, so I'm going to defend him. I don't like him, but I do think he was behind the wall. It did look like he was behind the wall.
He's a loser.
He is a loser.
He's an absolute loser.
He is I can't stand him. I cannot stand him. I do not like him.
He robbed a home run in Tampa last night.
It looked like he had...
But he was going to catch it, right?
Yeah.
The outfielder is going to catch it?
I don't know. He didn't get his glove in front of him. I don't know. This is such a bad stance for me.
Loser.
Trying to defend a guy that I absolutely cannot stand. But I mean,
Yeah, you know what? And let's knock down kids who are trying to get a home run
That
ball.
is BS. I can't stand that.
But if we're in Tampa, hey, make a nice catch. Good job. Hey, the Rays should sign you, pal. When that home run went up, and I think a lot of people recognized him right away.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, really, in Tampa? You're in Tampa for a game in April? But we have to talk about something that happened last night in the sport of baseball. You were not born yet. Jimmy, were you born in 78?
I was not. Dad was partying.
But your dad was probably rocking to the Who, maybe?
Yeah, he had long hair. It was great.
Remember the song "Who Are You"?
No.
He really wanted to know.
If you heard the lyrics, you would know. You'd probably start singing to it.
I probably would.
You've probably done some karaoke to it.
I don't think I have.
You ever watch CSI?
Do we get to play the game here of Who Are You as we look at those beautiful gray road uniforms that Nebraska baseball wears? Last night, they went down to Lawrence. KU's having one of their best years ever. Hey, side note, because watching the game on ESPN Plus, when did they go all turf? So they have all turf, and they have the old cutouts for a turf field. But Nebraska goes into Lawrence last night, and KU is number 22 in the country. They're rolling. I mean, this is the best KU baseball has had in a while. Maybe even the best since Dave Bingham brought in the College World Series back in the 90s.
That's actually not. That's the truth.
This baseball team that plays in Lincoln, who is now 15 and 18.
Yeah.
They got 2 out hitting. They hit with runners in scoring position. They found a way to have 10 pitchers navigate some bumpy roads, but they won a game against KU last night, and this weird team that just snapped KU's 9-game winning streak, KU's top 3 in the Big 12. I'm thinking, watching that game, who are you?
Yeah.
Because there's the Oregon State weekend, there's the early Vanderbilt weekend, and then there's last night, and it wasn't the most picturesque, well-played game. But they won.
It was impressive.
I'm like, what? Why? Last week there was Creighton, there was Omaha. And who are you?
You're watching the game and you're like, where did these guts come from? Where did this sheer will come from? Where did this big spot hitting come from? Oh my God, this team is having relievers come in and get out of jams and not giving up big hits in inopportune times. What is this? What is this clutch baseball that I'm watching?
Well, it's maybe last night was like a microcosm of what they can be and then what they are, because they once again had some rarely used arms that found a way to string things together, and their bullpen on the back end was pretty good. Max Butenbach, who had, he got off to a little bit of a slow start, got out of the lineup. People were in his ear. They were telling him everything that he didn't need to hear. He cleared the mechanism, and all of a sudden he is raking as Will Bolt took over the offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, now I can't quit you because you got Iowa this weekend.
It's a big series.
Iowa is near the top of the Big Ten.
Here's
15 and 18. They won last night at KU.
Do you know what's absolutely incredible? This team, like you said, is 15 and 18. 15 wins in the season. Over 25% of their wins this year are against ranked opponents. They have win over ranked Kansas, over ranked Oregon State twice, and ranked Vanderbilt. 15 wins. You are 3 games under 500, and 4 of them have come against the top teams in the country.
I mean,
what the heck?
Yeah, they don't make sense. So Clevenger comes in last night, bottom of the 6th. They were up 4-1. KU comes back to tie it at 4. Bases are loaded, and Brady Ballinger, who's one of the better hitters for KU, is at the plate. And Clevenger, who hasn't pitched a ton, gets a check swing, strikeout with the bases loaded. I'm like, what is going on?
It was
welcome to Nebraska athletics.
Dude, it was big time pitching, and I was listening to it on the radio. It was a great call yesterday, solo by Nick Handley. Every time they'd get in a jam and they bring in a new pitcher, and you're kind of just waiting for the whole 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning. I am just kind of waiting for the bottom to fall out. I am waiting for them to give up that grand slam or that 3-run homer or fall behind by 2, and now you have to hope you put something together in the 9th. And they got out of it every single time. And you're like, where has this been?
Well, from the pitching, now the hitting, Will Bolt's taken over the offense. So they have his more heavy involvement in the offense, and the lineup kind of staying the same has helped. It also, since they won on the road, they will continue to wear the grays, and I'm very, very happy. People don't like those grays the baseball team is wearing. You got to see them in person. They look different in person than on TV or any video clip you see.
I'll take your word for it.
I'm with you. I like them.
You saw them the other night?
Sharp. Oh,
yeah.
I did see
you
them
at the Nebraska Omaha game?
Yeah, I was there.
They look different in person.
They were fine. I'll give you that. They did. I didn't have a problem with them when they were wearing. You're absolutely right. It didn't pop into my mind when I saw them in person that I don't like these jerseys. But when I saw them earlier in the year, like some of the first, I think they were playing Louisiana.
On TV, they don't look good.
I immediately hated them.
In person, they look a lot better.
When I saw them in person, I did not think these looked like a dumpster fire. On TV, they look like a dumpster fire.
Now, if we're on the uniform police here, you're 15 and 18 because you still have the fat end. All right, fat is out. All right, just inject the little shot weekly and shrink the end, get the skinny end, and you'll be above 500. If you don't believe me, watch. If you do it this weekend and they sweep.
They wear new hats and they have an Ozempic sponsorship right on the brim. That'd be funny. I'd buy that hat.
The marketing, I like that. Nice.
Well, what's the other one? Wagozi?
Oh, yeah. No, I love, oh my God, those like
diabetes
H1C, those diabetes commercials are awesome. They're just all these
diabetes, not awesome.
No. But the commercials where they're all walking together and they're all singing in a musical.
Literally, what I asked my doctor is this the pill that'll make me sing and dance?
The little pill that does,
until they amputate my foot.
I missed those commercials during the NCAA tournament. You know what? Another commercial I missed? Sprinkles.
I miss the chocolate.
That's the,
oh, is that? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that one. Okay. I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to miss the Bateman commercial. I loved the Bateman commercial. I thought it was great.
Just listen to Smartless.
Hey, look, I'll just say this. I don't really care what they do with commercials. Just never get rid of the Whopper. Never get rid of the Whopper commercial. Just keep that forever.
I miss it, Lily.
Same.
We'll miss you this first hour. Hour 2 coming next. Hey, wouldn't you guys like to have a Ryan Smith, be Ryan Smith, or have Ryan
Yes.
Smith in your world?
Yes.
So
I would love to be rich and love sports and own teams and force my college to be incredibly
he
competitive.
owns 3 teams.
I would love to own the Utah Hockey Club in particular.
He owns he owns the Jazz, and he owns BYU basketball. So Rob Wright, who is transferring from Baylor, is going to go to BYU.
Wow. Religion to the other. Wow.
And the price tag is $3.5 million. So it's pretty well known that Ryan Smith is fronting a lot of the BYU money for basketball. It makes sense. I don't know if you guys are Mormon.
Not recently.
No,
but,
I haven't checked.
But I'm always listening.
I don't know if you've ever been to Provo.
It's pretty.
No.
Provo is a beautiful place. I would love to go and do a baseball game at BYU. Like the backdrop, like the Salt Lake City, they're getting a new ballpark. I don't know if they're in it this year because you lose track of them when they're in the PCL compared to the American till in the International League. But the BYU backdrop for their baseball stadium is fantastic, and you know what it's like at the football stadium. And they play in the Marriott Center, so BYU has always had the tension towards sports, but now they have a guy who has a lot of money and wants to win badly.
Their own Boone Pickens.
Exactly. But he's got, I think, even more money.
And he's not as old, so he'll be around
But
longer.
it makes sense if you are BYU, okay, and you're the Mormon faith, and outside of Utah, most people don't talk about Mormons. Okay. And if you've been to Salt Lake City recently, and I really like the city.
Yeah.
It's not the first time I went to Salt Lake City, I was like, okay, do I have to tell people I'm not Mormon? Now, and I was very ignorant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But
we watched SLC Punk.
When you go to a bar and they say you have to buy a subscription, and I'm like a cover charge? No, it's a subscription. Now that's changed since the last time I've been in Salt Lake City. But think about this: if you are the Mormon religion, you think this is the greatest thing because you have good athletics and people talk about you. And so people talk about, but the hell, they have their own TV channel. They have BYU TV.
Yeah.
So outside of Utah, people are going to talk about BYU. It's actually a brilliant marketing move for that faith and for sports at BYU.
We're pushing. Are they going to call? They're calling AJ Dybanska the Messiah. I mean, he's pushing. He's pushing the faith.
The nicknames come up with themselves.
You don't have to be Mormon to play there. Okay, the guy that was playing quarterback, Retzlaff, was Jewish.
Yes.
Okay, he was one. There is 3% of the student population at BYU. This was a game day stat. 3% of the population at BYU, or the enrollment, is not Mormon. And he was in the three. He was a 3%er.
Do you see those?
And he can drink across the street from LaVell Edwards Stadium because there's an area.
You see the BYU TikToks, right? Do you see those on
They
Twitter?
got a great mascot
And everything like that,
Shout
where they
out
go
Cosmo.
around the BYU campus and they ask them questions about the faith and the certain practices that they do and whatnot. And people are, I don't know, it's a bit of a culture shock for me when I see that stuff and just like the fact that they don't have caffeine. That's my biggest thing about the Mormon faith. I don't know how
that's the one that would get me.
Dude, I don't know how they do that. I really don't. Because everything else is like, they don't drink alcohol and they don't do drugs. Like, it's very healthy. Like,
But are they as stringent as they used to be?
I don't
Like,
I
hey,
don't
man,
know.
I grew up in the Catholic Church. We loosened some strings to try and get more people. I don't know. Is that the way you describe it?
Y'all may hold
strings.
hands.
Are they
How many are you gonna ask? You're gonna ask the Mormons? How many strings are you loosening up? How much tighter did you guys used to be?
They're probably not as stringent.
I don't
right?
know. I'm not Mormon. I'm not over there. I'm not in Salt Lake. I'm not boots on the ground. Oh my God.
Right?
I don't think
Go
I
over
would
there and
stick out
soak it
like a
in,
sore
yeah.
thumb. I'm the opposite. I am. First of all, I'm not tall. I'm short. I'm not blonde hair. I'm not blue-eyed. All those people look tall. Every time I see those videos, those BYU, those Mormons look like taller
House
humans.
hunters, yeah, they have 6 kids, $1.2 million budget. She's
I
unemployed.
would.
So Mormons are tall?
I don't. When I see those videos, they look like they're tall individuals.
Danny Ainge
They
was
look
not
like
very
they're
tall.
taller people. I don't know. This is just observations
Mark
I'm
Eaton,
making
rest
on
in peace,
TikTok.
was a
I'm
tall,
just telling
but
you
he
right
went
now.
to
If I were to
UCLA.
walk into Salt Lake, people would look at me right away and be like, "There's no way he's Mormon. No way. I do not. I'm telling you, I look like the opposite of Mormon."
I don't even know what that looks like.
They looked at Donovan Mitchell the same way?
Well, when he was slamming the ball and winning them,
Jazz are terrible.
Good.
God, there was a stretch where
Couldn't
they
happen
were
to a better
they were like
franchise.
fun to watch.
Well, there was a stretch where every year it was like you'd listen to the podcast and they'd be like, hey, look out for him. This might be it. Ricky Rubio was a great addition. Look how dynamic they are with Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell. I mean, they got Rudy Gobert. Look at how many screen assists he's handing out to this team. I mean, they can get anywhere on the floor they can because Rudy Gobert sends screens. Look out for the Jazz. And they just never panned out. And now Donovan Mitchell is like the best player on the second best team.
Cleveland, number 1 seed in the East, clinched it last night.
I know they kicked the Bulls' ass.
Well, I mean, I'm
Revenge
sure
for 89.
Now the new celebration in the NBA is to
Great
throw
call.
a grenade. So I'm sure that they threw a grenade.
I mean,
in
look,
Cleveland.
I saw that yesterday too. Like,
I was wondering.
I mean,
the
the
garbage on
guy,
my ESPN
the
app
guy,
was
he's just now I don't even think he's doing it to be a villain. I just think he's doing it to be.
I love pettiness.
I mean, he's just being.
But that's kind of you think. So for people that don't know, Ja has gone from the gun celebration to throwing a grenade.
The man
last
just
night.
loves war.
Well,
He's never.
Like with the G.I. Joes.
So
when
so
we were kids.
if the first time he does it, there's a clip out there that the Memphis TV announcers don't know what to do because
I did not.
It was.
I did
very-
not listen to it with
it
audio.
was-
I just
It
saw.
was a very odd, and I don't know, like the urge to go from the guns to the grenade, but to each their own. Whatever weapon you would like to choose, but it strictly is pettiness. And now it's Adam Silver against Ja Morant.
Did you see have you seen the 8 Mile, like the 8 Mile redub, but with Ja Morant?
Oh.
So Ja Morant went to Catholic school, like he went to a Catholic high school or like an academy. He didn't go to public school.
Ja Catholics.
And his real name isn't Ja, it's Demetrius, So it's like they do the 8 Mile thing, but they do it with lyrics with Ja Morant. It's like, this guy's a gangster. His real name's Demetrius, and then they have a great picture of, his father and his mother and a family picture. It's like, and Clarence lives at home with both parents, and Clarence's parents have a real good marriage. Like they literally did. It's a great 1-minute video of just the 8 Mile dub, but with Ja Morant. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Like they didn't say no to grenades. But he's going to get suspended. I mean, Adam Silver, you know what? No, we're not doing this. We're not doing a fine. We're going to suspend you. And then there'll be a bunch of outrage about, is the grenade celebration worse than the gun celebration?
See, if he threw the grenade on the court.
It's wild. Jimmy, if you're looking at it right now, it's
crazy.
It's wild where he pulls that out. I mean, you're like, you have to go back and watch it because you're like, what was that celebration? It was a grenade.
I respect the upgrade in artillery, though. I mean, he has.
Thought he was spiking the ball to stop.
I'm just saying, the guy has gone on the proper increase of first it was a pistol, first it was a handgun,
Gateway drug.
Then it became a semi-auto. He had two hands on the gun. Now he's into explosives. I think next time he's got to plant a claymore, right in center court. And then the time after that, do we think RPG is up next? He takes a bazooka right to the. Can you imagine? He's in LA against the Clippers. He's playing against the wall. He's playing against all those fans. He just takes a bazooka right to the wall after hitting a 3.
Man, all those
that's
loyal
the next
Clipper
progression.
fans.
He may be the best recruiter for the Army.
See,
hey, I can't do it on the basketball floor, but you're telling me I can do it in the Army?
Yeah, Tennessee's a conservative state. They get behind it.
Ja Morant for the troops. That's how we
be all that you can be.
Can you imagine?
That's his defense for Adam Silver when he says, "Can you come to New York City? We're going to talk about a suspension."
It's like, no, I'm representing the people who protect our country every single day.
What a roller coaster! If you're a Grizz fan, Jenkins gets fired. Zach Edey, by the way, is just rebounding every missed shot in the NBA today. And then you have Ja, who is fun to watch, but maybe even funner to watch after he makes a bucket.
Is he like, you gotta love him, right? Like if he's on your team, like you have to find it funny and entertaining at this point until he gets suspended. Right?
For Memphis, and Memphis is a town where everybody thinks they take shots at him. So if you live in Memphis, you're going to back up your city. You love living there, and he's one of your own. He's a guy that wants to be in Memphis. So you're like, you know what? Not everybody wants to be in Memphis. Yeah. Oh, they embrace him wholly.
I hope they would. Look, honestly, probably, and this is such a weird way to spin it, but like we're talking about him. He's a really great player. Probably good for the league that he's embraced it. If I'm being serious, it's probably good for the league that he's embraced the fact that no, this is just who I am, and no matter what you do, I'm just gonna do these ridiculous things, and I'm gonna be. I don't
care about the marketing.
Yeah,
so
I don't
he just
give an
wants
F
to,
for
he just wants to
anything.
play ball, and he's playing ball for the Grizz.
It's a changeup, you know. It's
Maybe
if it works, it works. I mean, we'll see, but we'll see if he gets.
Maybe Michael Malone will be coaching him next year. Speaking of coaching, so as we transition and try and stay away from the second hour serial killer discussion for the second straight day.
It's a great theory, though. We talked about it at great length at home last night.
I got more. I thought I'd get a bunch of negative feedback. I got more people that were like, okay, hey, this serial killer lived in Phoenix. The Diamondbacks then won a World Series title.
You had more people confirming to you that
he's not wrong, though.
Yeah.
See, I thought about you yesterday because I thought during some of my master's research, I'm like, maybe I should look up some of these guys' hometowns to see if serial killers.
Does it apply to golf though?
Well, I don't know, man. Like we have to dig deeper. We have to find out.
Has there ever been a serial killer in Austin? Because you got quite a few UT guys.
Yeah.
You know, Spieth
Texas,
and Scheffler.
They like their
we
guns.
got to see if there's a Northern Irish. Maybe that's the reason he hasn't been able to get the big.
Oh,
I'm
the
Cranberries sung about that.
They've had a lot of violence there, so
it's
I think Rory. I think it's more Rory than taking advantage of violence in your home country.
Yeah, I think Belfast has done enough.
But shifting to football yesterday in Lincoln, because it is spring football.
It is spring football.
Hell yes.
Number 3. You know how I say that the UCLA game was the best thing that happened to Matt Rule?
Yep.
Because it forced him to make changes that are changes for the good.
It got him going.
And sometimes you have to be reminded of mistakes, and it's okay to admit a mistake. You just can't double down on it. So you make changes to your staff. You bring in Dana Holgerson. You incorporate Phil Snow more, and now we see how heavily involved they are. I think, and I don't know if Matt Rule has sent like a box of cookies to Deshaun Foster and say, hey, thank you for coming in here. That's a game we should have never lost, but we lost, and we had to make changes.
Thanks for having a lot of people doubt me and question whether or not what I was doing here was working. I really appreciate it, bud.
It was the first time people doubted after that game. I don't know if you send like runses to Deshaun Foster and their staff goes,
Delicious.
But maybe Marcus Satterfield should thank Jeff Sims and Dylan Raiola. Because so Marcus Satterfield spoke yesterday, and I asked that question to BC yesterday because I met Marcus Satterfield for the first time this offseason, and I didn't know what to expect other than the Southern drawl. He's a very fascinating individual, and he likes to talk football, and I can see why he is effective with recruits. But he also is a guy that looks so relieved to be out of the spotlight as the OC. So, Matt Rule, and loyalty is a big thing. It's a two-way street with Rule. I think Rule is a difficult person to work for because he's a grinder.
Yeah.
But if you get on the good side of Rule, he will take care of you for the rest of your football life, whether you're an on-field person or an off-field person, because he respects the grind and he respects people that respect the sport. So there's loyalty.
Yeah.
And I think Satterfield is very loyal to Rule. And Rule is very loyal to Satterfield because it would be easy to cut him loose and no one would bat an eye. They'd be like, pfft. And he is getting paid what he is getting paid. And that can be an uncomfortable conversation. But I don't know about you. He handled everything yesterday really, really well because there was a lot of talk about last year.
Yeah.
And he answered those questions. And compared to when he had his faux pas of yards per play as an OC, I thought he was a lot more comfortable. He looked like he was enjoying his job, and he also looked like he was younger, which that job down there will do for you.
Sure.
So getting out of the spotlight of the OC, I say thank you to Jeff Sims because Jeff Sims exposed Marcus Satterfield.
Yeah.
And then Dylan Raiola said, whoa. We can't have this offense with that quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have a guy who gets to be out of the spotlight and gets to be a tight end coach. And I think for the first time he's been at Nebraska, I think he used the word fun yesterday. It was very refreshing to hear him speak.
It was first off, they weren't easy questions, right? I mean, they were pretty hard hitting, talking about
Mhm.
his failures. And, he was asked, why did you come back? Like, why are you even here? Most guys go. Why are you still standing in front of us? Right. And I think that it's, this, especially early on, and it hasn't been so much so now, because now it's about execution. It's about winning. But very early on in this program, the conversation was always about culture. It was always about standard, right? You heard it from every single coach that they were trying to build that culture. And I think that in today's college sports era, we get a lot of talk about acting a certain way and being a certain way and having a culture. And we get a lot of coaches and players, for that matter, who don't act like that, who say, hey, this is how we're supposed to be. And then they go and they leave and they go somewhere else, right? Or they don't live up to that. His answer about, me being demoted from offensive coordinator to tight ends coach is no different than, a guy going from being a starter to being a second string or being a third string or being benched.
And we're making the same amount of money.
Yeah. Well, there is a correlation there that still happens between the two positions.
What are you quicker to do? Demote a guy that's making 1.2 as a person on your staff, or a player that's making $1 million?
Ooh, probably a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a coach, because I think they're easily replaced. Right. And it's happened so much already that it's not as bad of a look when you pay a player.
I think in the new age of NIL, paying players to play, I think some coaches are hamstrung by, if we're paying that guy $1 million, we've got to play him.
Well, once again, these are like the great correlations between what they've been doing in pro sports and what they've been doing, what we're now doing in college sports. Because how many times have you heard of, like, well, they're probably not sitting this guy because they paid him a lot of money in the offseason and they don't want to look bad. Like, now you're seeing that come to fruition too in the NIL era with players. But I was impressed by how he just kind of stood up there, said, yeah, it was tough. There was a lot of adversity. I had to look myself in the mirror, but you know what? We say the same thing to these players. He essentially said, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't take it on the chin and if I didn't show up to work every day and coach the way that he's coaching. And you're absolutely right. He looked relieved, and he looked very happy talking about his tight ends and the guys that he has in the very athletic room, and was willing to go into detail about every single dude. And you can see that, that those relationships matter to him. And he made himself yesterday go from a bit of a laughingstock in terms of he's a $1.4 million tight ends coach to a guy that you can look and be like, man, I respect that. I respect that a ton, and I respect how he stood up there and did that. And, what we've seen and how Heinrich Haarberg talked about him, I thought it was fascinating how Haarberg talked about their relationship and how those two guys have been in the trenches together, working as quarterback and quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator, to now both of their collective journeys to being tight ends coach and newly transitioned tight end. I mean, it's an incredibly interesting dynamic. And I think he said all the right things yesterday.
I think those two together, and we can get into this later.
Sure.
Is not everybody is built for the spotlight. Like when you're a quarterback in Nebraska, you're in the spotlight. When you're the OC, DC at Nebraska, even special teams guy, you're in the spotlight. Not everybody has the DNA to be in the spotlight and handle everything that goes with it. Not only you personally, but people around you. Coach Satterfield's family took it pretty hard. They had never been in this fishbowl before. And when you're struggling, they thought South Carolina was a little intense. They had never experienced anything like Nebraska. And it's okay sometimes to admit you can't handle the spotlight. You're good at what you do, but the spotlight is too big for you. That's why a guy like Holgerson, I think, works at Nebraska, because he's a DGAF. And
he's been a head coach, and he's been in the spotlight, and he's been the guy at the podium every single week.
So things that are said about you, your family, your dog, what you drive, how you dress, you're like, I'm not listening to you. Okay. All I care about is my football team and the people that I work with. And, like Haarberg took one for the team. And so I think Nebraska is going to say, hey, we owe Haarberg.
Sure.
The way they're going to develop him and help him get to the NFL, because he took one for the team. He wasn't ready to be the starting quarterback in Nebraska, but because of the failure of Jeff Sims, injuries, Haarberg had to take over and did the best that he could in a situation where Nebraska didn't prepare him to be a quarterback. You could make a case that Nebraska football is preparing Heinrich Harburg to be a tight end more than they prepared him to be a quarterback, which is crazy. But you know what? That's a failure on a lot of ends. Now we're past that. But Harburg probably not having the skill set to be successful and carry that team in year one to a bowl, he wasn't prepared for the spotlight of being the quarterback. It's okay to admit that. You hang in there. You'll do, they're both doing, hey, I like being here. I'll do whatever it takes. So that's a sign of where the program is. But sometimes it's okay to say, I'm not built for the spotlight. Ed Foley, not built for the spotlight. He had never had that scrutiny before. Now, there are things, if you're not good at your job, the spotlight will find you wherever.
Sure.
But sometimes you're better at something else that is in the back office. Instead of being the receptionist, you're the person that works in the back office.
Yeah.
But you still kind of do the same task.
Well, and you're effective and you're comfortable there and you enjoy and you don't necessarily have a lot of that pressure, but also too, like those two guys and like look at a guy. So Heinrich Harburg is the quarterback, and everything he does, whether it be on the field, but then also off the field with his even personal life, gets published and gets talked about and gets known about, right? And that is to go from a guy who wasn't even in the quarterback meetings to then a year later you are playing on national television and you have the hopes of an entire state riding on your back with an offense who's missing their top 2 wide receivers and their top 2 running backs. And, like you said, you weren't fully prepared to do that. Holy crap. What a tough position to be.
I actually think him dating Harper Murray helped him with the spotlight.
See, it could have in the long run. I agree. Maybe in the long run it helped.
He wasn't comfortable his first year. Not starting, he appeared to be more comfortable last year. And he'd been a little over a year into that relationship.
I think though too, like I do think it is a sharp turnaround though to be not in the spotlight. And then all of a sudden, even like who you're dating or what your relationship is getting talked about consistently. Maybe through that did help him, but I'm sure right away at first it was like, what the hell? Like I can't even like when I want to get away from things, I can't get away from things.
Well, that's also on the coaches. They didn't prepare him.
Sure.
He wasn't prepared under Frost to be the quarterback in Nebraska. Like you also have to grow up. Like that's why I think Dylan is equipped to handle the spotlight and embrace it. Because he has lived in that spotlight his entire life. And
his dad has lived in that spotlight and has understood what that spotlight brings. And like, look at Satterfield, right? He makes, I guarantee you when he said his yards per play comment, he did not think that would be the what's on Twitter for the next couple of days and an insult that was getting thrown at him and a Barstool Sports article being written about.
You're right. In Columbia, South Carolina, at a Tuesday presser at Gamecock Williams-Brice Stadium, you can say that and it flies under the radar. You say that here in the current environment that was going on, it's thousands of people speak about it.
And I'm probably sure he went back into his office and 2 hours later, and maybe someone told him or he had social media and he went on Twitter and he goes, what the hell? Out of everything that I've said, this is the thing that gets picked out. This is what we're cherry picking me for. This is what I'm getting hammered. And how can you not think about that? Like, how can that not affect you? How can you not like be cautious in certain instances, whether it be, just how you act?
I'll tell you who it affected. It affected his family.
Yeah. I mean, it's just...
It's the fishbowl of Nebraska. Not everybody's built for the spotlight.
And you're absolutely right.
He stepped out of the spotlight. He's coaching tight ends. He has, he's not involved in the game plan other than suggestions. And he looks more calm. He was very jittery. His year plus as OC, always his play calling and his mannerisms were all the same. They're very jittery.
He yesterday, when he said, I've never been happier coaching, I believed it. He said it with some conviction.
Yeah. All right. A little bit later, John Walker, Brandon Vogel will stop by as well. I just saw the Cobalt Credit Union Pop Isaacs and Ryan Kalkbrenner commercial. Have we ever had a television commercial that features a guy that'll have his number in the rafters and a Houston Cougar? That's right. Pop Isaacs fell up. He announced last night he's going to Houston. We'll talk some ball because the guy from Wisconsin, who we loved watching when the arena was empty, shoot, said, shoot, I'm out of here. Fred Hoiberg speaks to the media today. Maybe we'll get some insight on why Nick Janikowski is no longer at Nebraska. That and much more as we roll till 10 on the day before the Masters on 1620 The Zone. Hey, if you're looking to replace your roof, there's only one place to go. You hear a lot of people that are like, hey, I can fix your roof. Nobody can fix your roof like Moose Roofing. Excellent service. They can help you if you need to replace your roof if it's been damaged by a storm or you're getting ready to sell your house. How about your roof? How about your gutters? How about your siding? Fast work, and they handle everything with your insurance. Now, when I say fast, it's not a shoddy job. They do take their time. They start with consultants who will come out to your house, and they will sit down and they will talk about your needs, and then they will give a full assessment of your roof, your siding, your gutters. You know what? Even if somebody else came along and they put gutter extensions on your house and they're not doing well, they will come out and they will repair those for you. That's what Pat, Jeremy, Andrew, and everybody else at Moose Roofing, they do. They work with you. They work together to complete it quickly, even if it's a small job or a big job, because they also do commercial roofing. 15,000 roofs throughout the Southwest Iowa to Lincoln area have been done by Moose Roofing. Pat and the crew, they are the MVPs of roofing, siding, and gutters in Omaha. If you don't believe me? Check out the reviews or check them out for yourself. Plus, don't forget, one of the big things now is, what am I going to do about my insurance? My insurance agent is giving me the runaround. They have an entire department that will work with you to help you navigate the increasingly difficult process. That's what they do at Moose Roofing. From top to bottom, they are Omaha's roofing company. Contact them today online at mooseroofing.com. Yeah, I don't think there's been many high school football quarterback prospects in Nebraska that have ever visited officially or unofficially Ohio State.
Really? That's, I mean, Ohio State's have had some pretty damn good quarterbacks as of late, as of recently in the last 10, 15 years. I mean, they've kind of, like, outside of.
But Nebraska kids.
No, I know Nebraska kids. What I was saying, just in general, Ohio State, I mean, they're getting the cream of, like, they're getting the top kids in the country in that quarterback position.
I don't know. Doubtful that he'll offer, but Jet Tomala from Millard South was in Columbus
That's awesome.
yesterday. But just like all Nebraska high school kids that don't go to Nebraska in the class of 26, he'll probably end up in Ames at Iowa State.
They are. What do they have now? 5 guys I saw.
The Cloneskers?
Yeah.
Jeez. Hey, Matt Campbell, I mean, they were knocking on the door of the playoff. Many are saying that the premier football program in the state of Iowa is Iowa State over Iowa.
Many are saying, I'm saying it. Cyclones are way better than the Hawkeyes. Hawkeyes are awful.
They used to have a guy on their staff that had a connection to Lincoln Northeast that would DM me about prospects. And I always said to him, how come you guys don't recruit in Omaha? I don't see Iowa State in Omaha. Matt Campbell should be in Omaha. He came on our show one morning, and I thought Vers was going to try and see if he had more eligibility to go play for him. He was fantastic. But then they disappeared from recruiting Omaha. They had a commitment from a Millard North running back who didn't pan out because he got in trouble. Didn't even finish his career at Millard North. And they had a commitment from him as a sophomore. And then when that went south, you hardly ever saw Iowa State in the Omaha area. Now, they would drop into Lincoln and they would get a commit here or there.
Sure.
Ben Nagoy from the wide receiver from Lincoln High. But now their class of 26 has a lot of Nebraska connections, whether it be in Lincoln or right here in Omaha.
I wonder, they got one and then they were like, oh, Nebraska isn't recruiting these guys? We can get another we can control. I mean, that's
now the one to watch that you would say they beat Nebraska would be Isaac Jensen. The guys that have committed haven't had like strong Nebraska interest.
Mm-hmm.
But Iowa State, I mean, I can see how Matt Campbell's a good recruiter. I mean, also look at, you go to Ames, look at the guys that got in the NFL.
Yeah.
They're producing that. They're going to send another wide receiver to the NFL and an early draft pick this upcoming draft. So good on them for recruiting the state of Nebraska, but it comes and goes of teams outside of the in-state school that do well recruiting in the state. Kansas State had a run.
Yeah.
But now, their connection to the state of Nebraska now is in the NFL. But now it's Iowa State's time. But Iowa State could have maybe 6 or 7 prospects in their class that are from the state of Nebraska.
Wow. I mean, this is kind of where we're at now, though, in the 105, where now that you have limited scholarships to give out and you can't necessarily, do the whole, do you want to come here and walk on, or do you want, an NIL package, or, you just don't have as much space and you have to be very, you got to be very efficient with what you're doing, not just in-state, but just across the country. You're going to see the lowering of in-state recruiting from Nebraska because, I mean, look at the staff, right? This staff that they have at Nebraska is hired in some specific places to go and target athletes in specific cities, could go and recruit, right? Like Phil Simpson and Addison Williams, both really good coaches in their own right, but their connections to Florida are really important for Nebraska in terms of recruiting, right? Mm-hmm. You see Isaiah Mosey, who, he's done a really good job, in his own right there, coaching and being in, the athletic, the football department, but his connection to Kansas City is massive for them to go and recruit. And so you just see that they look across the country, they're looking at different places that historically have had better talent, higher yielding, both college football and NFL talent, and they're targeting coaches to go and target those players. And in doing that, the in-state recruiting is suffering a bit in terms of how many commits that they're consistently
getting. I don't think so.
Well, I mean,
I think they've done well in state. I'm talking
this year specifically. This year specifically. I mean, they have Iowa State, who you have another school who is getting a lot of recruits from in-state,
But early on in putting together the class of 26, and maybe keep 26 out, but like 25, the targets they've wanted, they've gotten. So I don't know. I'm talking
this year specifically. I'm not talking 2025 or 2024 because they went out and they got
their targets that they're after have not made a commitment yet.
Yeah.
So they're doing fine in state.
But they're just not getting the abundance of guys they were getting early on when they didn't have, the roster limits that they do have now. And like the first 2 years of Matt Rule in terms of recruiting, right?
Mhm.
In-state guys, they absolutely dominated. I mean, they got the top prospect. I mean, they almost swept in some regards, right? You've seen just this year specifically, right? Just specifically this year, that hasn't been the case. And I know that there's a difference between who they're going after and who they're targeting and getting the guys that they want. But I'm just talking in sheer numbers.
Well, I think if you look at it from Nebraska's standpoint, you're like, hey, we're in a state that's got great high school football talent. The coaches and the development and playing year round is great. But the guys that we want in state that fit what we need, we're going to be able to go get. And it's, you know what? And maybe some of those guys that go away, they come back and we get them on a bounce back. But as long as we get the guys that we target,
I agree.
I don't think they look and go, man, our in-state recruiting is really
I'm just talking from a quantity perspective, not from a quality.
Yeah, but I don't think every good football player in the state of Nebraska is worthy of an in-state offer.
On the same page.
So it's okay that.
Oh, it's totally fine. Yeah, no, I'm not. Oh, I am not going against them or saying that this is a negative thing at all. That like this is absolutely awful that Iowa State is getting all of these recruits, and if now, like you said, if Iowa State was beating out Nebraska consistently, if they were getting guys that Nebraska wanted, that would be cause for a red flag. Yes, absolutely. But in terms of just where they're at now, I do think, just kind of what their outlook is on national recruiting and maybe some of the roster limits have something to do with the quantity.
I don't care where a guy lives. Best players, you go get
too.
the best players. If they're interested in you, you make a connection and it's love. Iowa JD is agreeing with me that Iowa State has become the premier football program in the state of Iowa.
I mean, Matt Campbell has done an incredible job there.
I mean, Iowa State almost made the playoff, the college football playoff before Iowa.
That's something. I mean, and that game last year, Iowa State versus Iowa. I mean, like that was a hostile. I like the animosity between those two schools in that football game. Like it was
all united by Casey's Pizza.
I mean, obviously it's a rivalry, but it was like watching that game. It's like you could feel the tension in that stadium through the screen.
Back to Nebraska baseball. John writes into the Equitable Bank inbox. A series win over Rutgers and a win over a ranked Kansas team. Weird how teams start playing better after being canceled by Odson.
Perhaps it was the plan all along.
Hey, I believe, though, he said they would win last night.
Did he? Good for Odson. Good call.
Jimmy on the stream, not Chavez. He's vibing this current setup of Nebraska baseball. Oh, I just lost it here. I responded to him. Where'd that go? Did we delete that? No,
we don't delete stuff.
Hold on here. Hold on. Oh, here we go. Of course, Iowa will look great against Nebraska, and then they will the bet against Indiana away. The Big Ten for Nebraska since joining the conference. I assume Nebraska baseball will beat a really good ranked KU team and then get swept by Iowa. That would be kind of par for the course.
That is kind of the setup.
At some point, like you have to change the narrative.
Like
we're finally playing up to our capabilities. This would be the weekend to do it.
You know what?
Because they're going to face some good pitching over at Dwayne Banks Field, where I don't know that the weather is ever nice there.
I'll tell you what would be.
Been to Iowa
I'll tell you what would be par for the course for this baseball team. They go to Iowa City and they sweep, or they win 2 of 3, right? And you are like, holy crap. This is the team we thought we were going to have preseason. This is the ranked team. This is the team that beat Vanderbilt.
Right.
And then they go and they play Creighton on a Tuesday and they lose that game. And then they host Northwestern and then they lose 2 out of 3. And then you're right back to being like, what the hell? What are we doing here? This is so frustrating.
What are they, 4-2 against teams in the top 25 now?
They lost. No, is it only they have a loss to Oregon State? I think that might be their only ranked. No, they lost to LSU. So yeah, 4-2.
So you're saying if they're in the Big 12, they'd be in great shape.
They would
Good
be in great
teams,
shape.
warm weather.
They would be in
there's-
great shape in the Big 12.
I think it.
No, would Nebraska do better in the SEC than the Big 10? Some people are asking.
With that pitching, they would be right where Mississippi State is. How about that? Mississippi State comes here and wins the College World Series, and I imagine they will make a coaching change. They have fallen off the map since they won here. Speaking of falling, so I've now seen it twice this morning. It's a Cobalt Credit Union commercial of Ryan Kalkbrenner and Pop Isaacs.
Mm-hmm.
So Pop Isaacs has his injury. He's out. He was supposed to go to Ole Miss. What happened?
I don't know.
Houston's better than Mississippi.
People in the industry said that Ole Miss was going to be the place for him.
Commercials with Mattress Mac. Mm-hmm.
Well, so day after Houston loses the national championship game, Pop Isaacs has a new home. He is going to be a Houston Cougar on a team, depending on who comes back, because Uzan could go to the NBA.
Yeah.
Cryer's out of eligibility, shockingly.
Too bad.
Well, he could have won a national title at Baylor and Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Pop Isaacs is going to play for Calvin Sampson.
Also, his second Texas school.
I think he fell up to go from Creighton, where you're wondering about injury history, to possibly playing for the number one preseason team next year.
Well,
and no snow in the winter.
Playing for a team too that, I mean, once again, when Pop Isaacs is healthy, he's a good basketball player. Okay, like you're never gonna get that game he had against Kansas out of my head, right? But I mean, the way that Houston plays isn't really like conducive to saving your body or like being healthy.
Or how about playing defense?
Yeah, or diving on the floor, diving on the ground, and like grabbing and scratching and clawing and playing like the most physical style of brand of basketball you could ever possibly imagine on a college court. It's an interesting fit from the perspective of, for a guy who has not been able to stay healthy, he's going to have to play a really, really tough brand of basketball to consistently get on the court.
Now, he could be a little bit like Cryer in the sense that he can create a shot. I'm curious on what Kelvin Sampson saw in him, because he doesn't have a lot of interest in playing defense. And I don't know. The thing I worry about, though, and you could track this, I guess. Guys that transfer to Creighton, like Jemiah Neal. All of a sudden, Jemiah Neal's offensive game got unlocked, and he was a better shooter.
Yeah.
Pop Isaacs was actually a better shooter in his small sample size before the hip surgery at Creighton. So is that a Creighton thing, that in that system you become a better shooter? Or is it Pop Isaacs found
a key?
Yeah.
Or a personal development?
Because, I mean,
which again, a shout out to the
staff. Is he carrying that with him to Houston, or is he leaving it behind in Omaha?
Well, he'll be able to create shots. I mean, he can find his shots, but he got to make them. The defensive part of this whole thing is, all right, maybe we have an expanded roster where 15 scholarships, we can take him and
take a shot.
Get some dog defense.
Because he'll get buckets for them.
Yeah.
I mean, he will score for them, but there aren't a lot of guys that score at Houston that don't play defense.
I mean, but also from an offensive perspective, maybe for Kelvin Sampson might be thinking, all right, maybe we sacrifice a little,
to find some offense.
Some offense. Yeah, I mean, that
was kind of their.
Could have used a couple of buckets the other night.
Yeah, they don't. They don't have a ton of guys.
Could have used a goaltending.
They don't have a ton of guys on their own. You're right. You're right, Matt. They don't have a ton of guys on their own that create shots.
Exactly.
So he could do that, but I don't think all of a sudden Houston's going to go from playing 66, 64 games to, you know what? Let's play like we're in the Summit League, 85, 82.
The running Cougs.
But I do think you could have the conversation of
run and slam them.
What is the difference between being the number one Ken Palm defense and being the number 4 Ken Palm defense? And what if we're able to upgrade our offense from being, and I don't know what the number was specifically, but we can upgrade our offense from being, 12 to 6, in that regard. And then that is actually a net gain. So I think that could be, I do worry though. Like, I'm throwing that out there as like a hypothetical, like maybe that is the idea. Maybe it's like, all right, hey, maybe we take a slight step back to take a bigger step forward. At the same time, you gotta go home with
Yeah.
the game that you brought, right? That style of play got him to the national championship.
Texter Bernie says, have Mississippi State fans sobered up since their last trip to Omaha? That'd be a long time to be
Drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hanging over.
That probably is not healthy.
When you get older, it kind of lasts that long. But
I know.
Hey, look what happens. You come to the College World Series, you win it, and you kind of fall off the map. Mississippi State, Mississippi. There's a lesson to be learned.
Is there a correlation between the NBA and the College World Series of coaches? The worst thing happening to coaches is winning championships?
Another thesis idea.
It's a good one. I have a lot of thesis ideas.
Since the bubble, only Golden State, Miami, and San Antonio are the only teams in the NBA that hasn't changed coaches.
Hell yes.
Wow.
NBA and the NHL have a lot in common.
I was in 8th grade the last time the Spurs did.
It's Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, last night at Augusta National, they had the champions dinner.
Yes.
Scotty Scheffler was there.
An American dinner. An American man.
Now, was it as good as what last year's was, or the when he won in 23? So they had burgers, shrimp, they had tortilla soup, they had fish and steak.
Yes.
That's not bad.
But I heard the tortilla soup was really hot. Like that came out of the woodwork that apparently a lot of people were having, especially the older
Craig
players.
Stadler complaining?
I think Couples was coughing on Oswald was coughing on the chili and the tortilla soup. I mean, they're having a tough time. The old guys having a tough time with the hot tortilla soup.
What Tiger have? Tiger had last time that he won.
I don't remember
what did he have? Sushi?
No, that was Matsuyama. Hideki apparently had some of the nicest, the nicest master dinner ever. Like had the sashimi, had the nigiri, had the A5 Miyazaki Japanese Wagyu steak.
I think Tiger did have sushi, but he also had steak. The thing I remember about Tiger is that he had 3 desserts. Like Scheffler likes the cookie. The cookie is pretty good.
Yeah, the cookie skillet.
When Adam Scott won about 10 years ago, he had lobster.
That's great.
So last night it was kind of, there were 32 of the 35 there. Tiger was not there.
Yes. And he when he made the announcement that
they quit Tiger.
They were making the 9-hole, they're restoring the 9-hole municipal course. A lot of people were like, man, he doesn't look good during this announcement. I want to throw it out there. The guy's getting up in age. He's older now. He just had he had a ruptured Achilles, right? He's had to have surgery. He's probably hasn't moved around a whole lot or done any ton of physical activity since his surgery.
Put some respect on the TGL.
He's probably on some meds right now that is not making, his metabolism isn't working the same. The guy's going through a rough surgery. He's probably not in the best shape of his life. We're getting a little too much on Tiger for his physical appearance and where he may or may not be. He's going through it.
Tiger, VJ, and Sandy Lyle were not there. But the thing that stands out about this picture, and it's pretty cool to see, you got Tom Watson is there, you got Nicklaus, you got Craig Stadler, you got some of the older guys. You've looked at the picture, right?
I have.
Have you seen the picture, Jimmy?
I have not. I'm going to look it up.
Is Nick Faldo photoshopped? Nick Faldo looks like he is ginormous, and he has got a dome. I bet Nick Faldo wears, when he wears a hat on the golf course, it has got to be size 8. Nick Faldo is in the back.
It's like Sputnik.
He is gigantic. He's next to Patrick Reed. Nick Faldo, I think, is photoshopped in. But that dome, dome is enormous.
I'll say this.
Does it come across on TV when he's in the tower that he's got a huge dome?
He is a bigger dude. I mean, I think in general. But
he looks like he's photoshopped in.
I'll tell you something right now. Who let Phil be smack dab in the middle? Isn't that a weird guy? A little bit to just have right down the middle. I see him.
I need Phil. I need Phil top 10, baby. Phil's played pretty well of late on the Live Tour.
Oh, now I have to get an ad in order to look at this picture. I'm trying to. Okay,
look at it during the break.
Oh my God! Holy Lord!
Yeah, Nick Faldo, 8, size 8.
He's covering up the drapes. He's covering up the window.
What? Oh,
he makes Bubba look tiny. That's crazy. Sergio looks great in the back right corner. So does Hideki. I'm gonna need Hideki. Hideki's a guy. Both those dudes are guys that I'm looking at. Hideki and Sergio.
Technically, they're all guys.
Or they're dudes.
They are dudes.
So somebody said Tiger can't put weight on his foot, and so he decided not to come.
Yeah, I mean, probably a pride thing, right? To stroll into the Masters dinner on crutches or one of those things where you got to elevate the foot. You got to stroll in there, You
may not want to suck the oxygen out of the Masters because we can't quit Tiger.
Can't quit him.
We can't quit him, even though his body is starting to quit him. We can't quit Tiger.
Everybody wants to see him back.
Golf can't quit Tiger. They can't. Look at TGL. TGL was a draw. Why? Because of TW. All right, 2 in the books, 2 to go. A little bit later, John Walker and Brandon Vogel on 1620 The Zone. All right, 8:03 on a Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, everybody. Going to be a beautiful day weather-wise. We're going to be in the 70s. Spring is here.
Flowers are blooming.
The azaleas. We Augusta National tomorrow.
Georgia. No,
No, I'm listening.
no. I mean that's that. I don't want to keep
You
singing
did roll
a song.
that R
It'll
beautifully.
be Georgia. That's it. That's all you get from me.
Do you know the rest of the words? Because you're off to a good start there.
Well, I don't.
You definitely hit one of the words.
I'm referencing a different song. Like the song that I'm referencing is like a love song, like sung by like a different like it's
About a girl named Georgia?
it's like I've never fallen in love until I found her, and her name is Georgia in the song.
How about
So that's what I say.
Nice.
Georgia.
Makes me think of my first girlfriend. Older woman. She was 6, I was 5.
You started dating that early?
Summer of
People,
88.
people
yeah.
in Texas.
I got a love note when I
It's
was
hot
in
down
kindergarten, and
You
I
too,
held
huh?
on to it for a very long time. And then I got another love note when I was in first grade. I knew right then and there I was a player.
My
Right,
my first
came home with the love note. My dad goes,
nice.
"Kids got it. Kids got it. Genes have passed on."
I should have known something. My first love interest, Bridget Duffy.
Okay.
When my mom passed away at the service where you greet people, and Bridget Duffy's mom, who was a secretary in the school office because we were in the same grade, she comes up and she gives her condolences.
Yeah.
And says, "Did you know my daughter?" She has said, "Have you kept in contact with Bridget?" I was like, "No, I mean, I don't. I think we went through all 8 grades, but I don't remember." She goes, "Yeah, she's now lesbian." I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
I will say this."
Damn.
Should have asked, is she a P1er? Why not? We always want people to join us.
No, that was, you know what? Well, while I'm grieving, that was not my first.
Yeah.
So sorry to hear that your daughter is a lesbian, that maybe we had messed around in your basement in her bedroom when we were in first grade. But do you happen to
what? We're gonna skate by that? I thought this was gonna be a great moment where we're like, you got the job done with Bridget in like high school or something.
She tricked me.
It's okay. Wins or wins.
She tricked me,
she
and the next
played
thing, the next
She
thing you
strung you
know,
along.
the next thing you know, I was doing a lot of things that I had a lot of questions about years later.
She did to you what Pop Isaacs did to Ole Miss. Apparently, just thought you're going to Oxford. Thought you're gonna have a great time at a Grove, and then nope, gone somewhere else.
No,
Damn.
The vaguely
Good
part of it
connection.
I remember. I was having a good time. It was dark and it was warm, but I did not like go, "Hey, do you think that your daughter listens to 1620 in Omaha?" No, but there's
In your defense, you're always good to lighten it up.
all the takeaways from that night at St. Pius X Church. Okay, and rest in peace, Mom.
Yeah,
because we're coming up next month on 2 years. Is people tell you the wildest things about either you growing up when they remember you as a little kid. Like they like, "Oh yeah, I remember. Like we came over to your house and you didn't have any clothes on." I'm like, you know what? This is not the moment.
No.
Or people like tell you the wildest stories about like your mom, and that was
Lord.
Mrs. Duffy came up and she was like, "Oh hey, you know what? I had just." I'd heard about Barb and I reached out to her and she reached back out to me, and your mom was such a lovely person. Have you kept in contact with my daughter, Bridget? No, Mrs. Duffy. And I always called her Mrs. Duffy because she was our, the secretary at school. No. Well, she's lesbian. That's what she said right there. They're like, I'm standing next to my brother. We're greeting people. And I'm like, what is your response? Like,
did your brother hear
Great
it
for
like
her.
standing next to you, or?
I'm like,
she married?
We're in a church.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe wait for outside. Maybe wait for when we have dinner after the service tomorrow. Okay.
Maybe that's on the top of her mind. Maybe she's very proud of it that her daughter's a lesbian. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's a sense of pride for Mrs. Duffy. I saw my my grade school crush at a bar in Wrigleyville over about 2 months ago. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna walk up to her. I'm gonna say something. And then I got lost in the crowd, and then she ended up leaving. I didn't see her.
I've seen that movie. John Cusack.
He was at the Cubs game last night, sitting in the front row in 39-degree temperature. That's
it looked
a Cubs fan.
Brutal out there. And I know that it was brutal because I've been to about a dozen of those games. Tough night. But hey, Cubs win.
Will we have a big board for the Masters tomorrow?
Will we have a big board for the Masters? Yes, we will have a big board for the Masters tomorrow. I've already made one bet. I made one official bet yesterday.
And that was?
Colin Morikawa to win.
Okay.
$10 plus 1,200. I am a little worried about his comments and maybe the media being a distractions and the story heading into it, but his strokes gained looks really, really good hanging into the tournament. It's over the average of 2.17, which a lot of the winners have had. I think it's the last 7 winners have had that. He's chipping well around the green. I feel like his iron game is kind of tailored toward, what Augusta offers. So I think, he's just got to play well on Sunday. I mean, that's just it with Colin. Can Colin play well on Sunday?
I've never gambled on golf, so I'm going to be paying attention to the big board a little extra tomorrow.
I don't know. I'm getting worried about the big board because I'm liking.
You had one down day.
No. I had a great. We went 4-2.
Yeah. Then the
last
big
week on the big board. We lost on the ponies, which was tough.
It's average. I mean,
but humans, you did well.
The great sports gambler is about 57%.
We went 4-2 last week, and then I think total we were 1 game under 500 for the first for the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. I'm a little nervous about the big board though, because there are more and more bets that I'm liking. Like we're getting to the point where we're getting up to 6-7 bets where I'm kind of like, I don't know, maybe I have to dial back the board a little bit. Nothing to do with the budget, but it's just like, you can't pick every horse in the
That's
Kentucky
medium-size economy board.
I know. Well, we're getting to the point too where I'm going to have to win multiple of these bets, which is like historically I have not been good with Masters betting, but I am in 2 pools and I have the big board. So we're going to be locked in with pimento cheese sandwiches and homemade azaleas. I'm excited for the pimento cheese. Once again, don't think I'm going to like it, but I'm excited for it.
Look at Robert McIntyre. By the way, when you're looking at long shots,
I like that one. I like that one a lot.
I know that all the metrics of you have to be doing blank, blank, blank to win at Augusta coming in and what you do with your game. I also like Will Zalatoris. Like they're not the top of my picks, but look at the Scottish lefty.
2 guys I like, and they're older guys: Hideki Matsuyama, who's won it in the past, and Sergio Garcia.
Sergio has played well.
Is playing really well in this tournament. And then another name you have to look out for. He's a live guy, so he goes under the radar. But Joaquin Niemann. I mean, Joaquin Niemann has been playing good golf. He's won 2 live tour events this year. I mean, just for him with Joaquin, it's been, can he perform in the majors?
Well, that's the problem.
He's not a great. He
dominates the live, but disappears when the best in the world.
And I'll tell you,
he's got 0 top 10 finishes in 22 major starts.
It's crazy.
Now, I like Matsuyama. So he's made 10 straight cuts at Augusta. I think he's only been twice outside of the top 20. Of course, he has the win in 21. Yeah. Sergio has been playing pretty well. That's why, like Mickelson, and I don't watch a ton of the live.
Sure. Neither do I. I'm going to tell you something right now. I watch 0 of the live. Yeah. I've watched no live events.
But here's the thing about Sergio is outside of his win in 18, he has kind of been dreadful at Augusta. But you have to keep something in mind. He's going to make a charge for the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
So what does that do for him in this?
And also too, like he's kind of hitting those iron games, strokes gained, around the green, like metrics right now that you're looking at. So it's like you see kind of those numbers pop and you're like, okay, that's a guy. And also too, like you're going to get pretty good value out of him just because he's an older dude. And we get all infatuated.
You're on those older dudes again.
But I'm in relativeness.
You're older dudes. You're knocking the older dudes again.
No, I'm not knocking them. I'm betting on them. Most of the guys I'm betting on are the guys who've been around the PGA Tour or have just been around majors a lot and have a ton of experience. And like that's kind of look, there's a reason why you've never had a first-time starter win at Augusta.
No. So you're older dudes.
Relative to golf, not relative to actual human age.
What do you think is old?
Just
you?
In relative human age?
Yes. What do you think is to your group of people?
80. 75 to 80.
I think he's
just saying that.
Yeah, I think
no, it's like the rule of 3 multiplied by 2.
Don't be Mike. Hey, be the anti-Mike Malone, man. Don't tell us what we want to hear. Tell us what we need to know.
Okay. The real answer is 70.
Oh.
Tell us what we need.
The real answer is 70. Once you hit 70, I go, that's an older fella.
So last 10 majors, Is Tiger the oldest guy? Because Tiger was 43.
Let me look that up. I think so. Because what? Schauffele's young. DeChambeau's young. Scheffler's young.
A 46-year-old Jack Nicklaus is not winning the Masters. Now, that would be, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. But somebody that is 46 years old is probably not going to win the Masters.
Was Phil older? Is Phil the last 10 with his, or how many years ago was that when he won that U.S. Open?
No, winning Augusta.
Oh, winning Augusta. Oh. Probably. Well, Sergio and Tiger have to be around that age, but Patrick Reed is young, and John Rahm was younger. Adam Scott was younger when he did it. Phil back in 2011.
Scotty Scheffler is under 30.
I know. He looks like he's in his early to mid 30s. I can't believe he's still in his 20s.
I mean, when you become a felon, it ages you. That's what I've heard.
That one day in the clink. That one day, it really roughed him up.
Streets are tough.
They are, especially when you are going from country club to country club.
Oh, another guy that I like, Shane Lowry. He's another guy who's been playing really well, who's been hitting those same metrics that I've been seeing. So I like Shane Lowry as well.
He has played pretty well at Augusta.
I have a great
three top tens.
There was this great.
I think he's been. You know what? That's not a bad. I'm probably not going to walk with you down.
He'll be on my board,
Magnolia Lane. But he had to win. But he has had. I think he's 5 of his last 6 trips to Augusta. He's been at least in the top 20.
I had a great sheet. I lost it where it had a bunch of these different guys and where they had finished in the last couple of go-rounds at Augusta. I can't find it now.
Look at my McIntyre and then look at Will Zalatoris.
So I am
3 times the Masters.
Now I'll tell you,
never finished.
I'll tell you a guy that I'm out on. Who hasn't been playing well as of late, and who has not had the good short game, and who has not had the strokes gained, but a lot of people are on him. I'm telling you right now, Ludwig Oberg is fool's gold, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, we've heard all this talk about him, but I think a lot of people are still falling in love with his solo second place last year and his win early season on. He has not been playing like you were supposed to be playing to be a contender in the Masters, yet he is very high up on a lot of these betting boards.
Well, because last year was a crazy to finish runner-up. That was the first time he'd played at the Masters.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have put, in my opinion, way too much stock in that, because I'm looking way more at how you're playing in your last couple of events as opposed to what you did last year in Augusta.
So I did make a play on him on a prop of a star that won't make the cut.
Oh,
because he has missed the last 2 cuts, and his last 8 rounds, he has not been under 70. But you're right, he is getting a lot of love because
he's getting a ton
last
of
year.
love. He's getting, and also too, you win the Genesis, and then he's already known for having his first start at Augusta, being second place. Then you win that. Everybody's like, oh, no, I'll stay away from that. But I do I'm all in on Morikawa. I'm very in on Sergio and Hideki as top value top 10 bets, and then I'm not ready. I'm not fully convicted yet to do to put my stamp on Shane Lowry, but I've liked what I've seen so far, just in terms of reading and studying up on it. But I'll say this: I am going to place a bet on Rory. I am going to just because, not because I think holy crap, he's going to win, this is his year or anything like that. And he does have all of those numbers that we've talked about that you need in order to play well at Augusta. But he's one of those athletes where I want the Sunday sweat. I want to be there with Rory, living and dying on every shot and every putt, hoping that he finally gets the Masters. That is what we talk about. Oh, what does the league want? What would the PGA Tour love to have on Sunday? The PGA Tour, if they had to pick, they would love to have Rory firmly in the hunt on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, he's a crowd favorite. It's also the first time that he's come to Augusta with 2 tour titles, winning at Pebble and then TPC. Here's the thing with Rory, and you're not going to get much bang for your buck because he's about 6.5 to 1 odds.
Yeah.
Either and it's all predicated on Rory's first 2 days, because usually gets off to a terrible start, and then he has to scramble. The last time that he shot under 70 on the opening round, he was in the hunt on Sunday. But usually he's about 72 on Thursday, and he's 70 on Friday, and he is way back. So if he gets off to a good start, he's in play. But here's the thing. If you are rooting for Rory McIlroy to finally that Green Jacket seems oh so close is you either want him to just collapse and fail
Yeah.
or win it. You
Yeah.
don't want him to get to Sunday with a chance and then collapse. So Rory, if you're gonna be bad, and then you know what? Maybe don't make the cut and you just go away, because most people would not be able to put up with the heartbreak if he is in the hunt in the back nine
Oh my God.
on Sunday
Can you
and
imagine
does not finish it.
He's like up 2 going into amen corner. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Hey, did you see? So have you seen the groupings and what the order is? Get ready for some of these feature groups to be sitting around for a while with Brian Harmon and Patrick Reed on back-to-back groups. And then you have like your top players. You got Justin Thomas and Xander Schauffele and Scheffler and McIlroy and Minwoo Lee and like all these top dudes all following those two who are going to be taking forever to play this course. Holy Lord. There's going to be a traffic jam. That might be a story coming out of Thursday.
What do they have? The only day with weather is Friday?
I haven't looked in. Yesterday they were
really
saying
pretty.
on the part that I was watching live from Augusta, they said that the weather was going to hold up, that it was going to be a good weekend. So they didn't say specifically that it could get bad Friday or anything like that.
Lower humidity, lower temperatures.
Thank
Not
you.
hot.
Thank you. Yeah.
Be a nice day.
Latino Al.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll take a quick break. Come
Stay
back.
well.
Coming up at 9, John Walker stops by. We'll talk some portaling as Creighton has put together one of the better portal classes in college basketball. Also, start studying the name Dominic Nelson.
Okay.
And start studying the future of Creighton basketball as well. On and off the floor, maybe. John will stop by at 9. Coming up at 9:40, Brandon Vogel from Counter Read on 1620 The Zone. All right, now the college basketball season is over. So is the 16-20 bracket tournament, the censored 16-20.
Yes.
Congratulations to Rochelle, Jeff, and Charlie, who had Houston, Auburn, and Duke. Especially
Poor
Rochelle. I know. But you know what? We like our winner of $1,620 because he had Florida. Mark joins us now. Congratulations, Mark.
Congrats, Mark.
It's fantastic.
Hey, and your life accomplishments and not knowing a lot about you, and I apologize, where does this rank winning $1,620 from the Zone?
Oh, it ranks right up there. I've had a few winnings in Vegas and Council Bluffs, but
nice.
1620 is on top of them all.
Nice.
Bam, that's a good promo. Thank you very much, Mark. You'll be hearing your voice a lot on this radio station.
For years to come.
Okay, so, Mark, are you a gambler?
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Do you have? Are you a golfer as well? Are we going to be dabbling in the Masters?
Yes.
I'm not a golfer, but yeah, I usually do put something down on the Masters.
Okay. Any vibe? Any best bet you're looking at right now?
Gosh, I haven't even looked that close yet.
Okay, I won't put you on the spot, but how about this one? Win total for Nebraska in 2025 is 7.5. Over or under?
Nice.
Over.
Okay. What if I made it 8.5?
Ooh.
Ugh. I'd have to stay under.
Okay. All right.
Do you have Mark, do you have a best bet like just right now? Like have you looked at the book and you're like, hey, here's a bet that I'm gonna place today, or here's a bet I'm gonna place this weekend?
I have not.
Okay.
I've just been doing like some futures.
Okay.
Ooh, what's your top future?
So I have the Red Sox to win it all.
All right.
It's actually not bad.
All right.
Not bad. Mark, congratulations. We will be getting in touch with you so that you can get the big check. We give you a gigantic check.
Nice.
And then you have to take it to your bank and convince them that it's a real check to deposit. But congratulations. Thanks for listening.
I appreciate it, guys.
Hey, thanks for listening to 1620 and congratulations.
Well, you have a great day.
Yep. That's Mark.
Congrats to Mark.
I don't think we give his last name, right?
No.
We'll give his email, though. He's at Gmail. All these. Oh, no. Charlie works for UNMC.
Oh.
But everybody else is Gmailers.
Good for Mark.
We're always disrespecting us AOLers.
I think
love for Netscape.
I think Mark should go straight to his local casino, put that $620 on a nice little.
Not everybody is like
Shane Lowry to win it all.
I would go get breakfast.
No, I'm kidding. No, go ahead, get some brunch. Save it.
Not everybody is like you.
Maybe don't invest it yet.
Not everybody has to go to a casino every day.
I don't go to a casino every day.
Where did you go yesterday?
I went to.
Where'd you go the day before?
Warhorse.
Norm, did you go to Cheers today?
At least you mixed it up. Yeah. Warhorse one day, horseshoe
ask me
the next.
Ask me if I'm going to a casino today.
A lot of horses.
Are you going to a casino today?
Yes. It's how I place my bets. We don't have online gambling in the state. So you got to go to a casino and you got to place your bets.
Get on your soapbox.
Buddy,
this is it.
There's a parking lot not very far from here where you can go and it all works.
Yep.
Or work on your geofencing.
Or here's an idea. I like that they have free Diet Pepsi and Diet Coke over at the casinos, and I get to walk around and I get to have a little free soda. I enjoy that part of being at a casino. I also enjoy that every X amount of days I get some slot free play. So then I just put my little player's card in a slot and I get $5 free play. Go boop, 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 boop,
Welcome
boop.
back, Matt.
Yes. There you go.
Bob writes into the Equitable Bank inbox. Where are you going to go tomorrow? You'll have to go back, right? To double down?
Yeah. No, I ain't going.
Okay.
Tomorrow I am not going. No.
Masters
because
Thursday?
We're done. Because I'm not betting on anything else this week. I'm literally betting on nothing else. Well, there is the last Kentucky Derby horse race or points race on Sunday. So maybe I'll be back on Sunday.
Have you met a loyal listener of 1620 by the name of Mike?
No. Yes. Mike is always in Happer's comments saying 1-800-GAMBLER. Here's the thing. I got my units, guys.
Don't knock Mike.
I am not knocking Mike at all.
That is Mike's world.
I'm not. No, I absolutely not. We're not. And I'm not making fun of Mike. And I understand that if I was getting
50th and Capitol, Matt will be in the parking lot about 10:20. You guys can have a sit down.
I'm a responsible gambler. I'm a very responsible gambler.
Where did you go on Friday?
What?
Would you like me to read the disclaimer again?
On Friday, I actually did go to the casino.
Okay,
Friday.
here's Bob's
and then
email.
Saturday, before I went to Lincoln to the Matt Rule presser, I had to stop at the casino to
Man, if you ever get a job covering UNLV,
make some bets.
All right, this is from Bob about the Masters. The best old guy to win the Masters.
Hi, Bob.
The best old guy who could possibly win would be the guy who won last week on the senior tour. How great would it be to watch the Masters Elite membership squirm at the presentation if they have to watch the green jacket being put on? Angel Cabrera, who, by the way, got out of prison, and he is back at the Masters.
Nice.
Take that, Scotty.
Let me tell you something right now. Back in the day when we were in these Masters pools, and it was all about like, hey, you want to get the top score, but you're picking 4 golfers. You're more worried about all 4 of your golfers making the cut, because if all 4 of yours don't make the cut, you're kind of screwed. Angel was always a good pick. Angel was always there. When he was in the tier 4, he was always a great quad 4 guy to put your money on and be like, he'll probably make a cut, but then be in last place on Sunday out of the guys you make.
So what is he? He's mid-50s. He is invited because he won the Masters in 09. Now last year he had some visa problems and he couldn't come to the US, but it is 4 years ago that he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. He threatened a couple of ex-girlfriends.
Jeez.
So he is playing in the Masters at the age of
he is a college
55.
basketball coach.
I think is he on parole?
I don't know. I can look that up. We got an ankle monitor on Augusta.
Long as it matches.
He was there on the Champions dinner picture from last night. He's there.
I don't believe he's on parole.
But Bob, that would be kind of interesting.
That would be very interesting.
We're in a Raiders polo or something. Just go all in.
Do you remember last year, Jose Maria was like He was competing in the beginning, like he was in the top 10 to start the first round, and like they were following him, and he was playing some of the best golf. Like he was scrambling, he was headed out of bunkers. The like announcers were going crazy, and he was just doing Jordan the entire time. He just kept putting his hands up in the air, like, I don't know, man. I'm an old golfer. I'm rolling them well. Michael Block in the Masters this year?
I don't believe so.
I know.
We need more smoking. Like Angel Cabrera is a guy that smokes. Charlie Hull is a guy that smokes.
God, can you imagine if John?
Because there is no stipulation that you can't smoke, so you're free to do whatever you want.
Really? I did not know that on the grounds. Can the patrons smoke?
Oh, I don't know.
I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think that they could smoke. I don't think the patrons can smoke. It'd be funny.
That's a good question. I don't know. I've never heard that. If you.
I mean,
you can't like what happens if you you're at the end of the day you're at Augusta National like with your son and you just want to enjoy a friendly cigar. I don't know nowadays if
enjoy a nice J and look at the beauty.
Smoking is permitted at the Masters tournaments on the grounds of Augusta National Golf Club. Although there are some restrictions regarding location and types of smoking materials. Yeah. But you can,
there's probably certain areas where you can go and smoke. It's not like, you're free.
Okay.
You're free. If you're sitting next to someone next to the ropes in a chair, yeah, you can light up. No, you probably have to go somewhere, which always brings me back to when we used to fly in this tube that flies in the air and you could smoke inside of it.
Oh, yeah.
Just think how bat blank crazy that is today.
We all wear suits.
You could smoke on an airline.
That's wild. That is wild. It still is crazy to me that we lived in a time where TSA didn't exist. I do understand,
and TWA did.
I understand the history of it and why it was implemented and everything like that. But I've never
That's good.
I just want to throw that out there.
That.
Stop with your conspiracy theory there.
No conspiracy theory. I legitimately have never lived in a time I've seen videos of people just walking through the airport onto planes. I cannot believe that used to be a thing. I've never grown up in a time when you couldn't do that.
Hey, I would, there's some places where you'd like to go and dine at an airport.
Oh my! One of the best places I've ever eaten was at the Phoenix airport. They had right before
was it the same McDonald's I went to?
Was it in or was it out?
It was.
Was it in and out?
No. It wasn't in and out. I don't remember the name, but I had the greatest chicken tortilla soup.
How could you not remember the name?
Because I barely remember anybody's names. I'm terrible with names. I'm one of the worst humans when it comes to names.
People, but we're
all
talking
right?
about food.
Like, no, everything. All right. I can remember like certain plays and very like niche like sports things. But it's like when I meet somebody, and you say they're like, hey, I'm like Pat, nice to meet you. In my head, I have to go, okay, Pat. And then even sometimes I still forget.
Shedeur with the football.
People, I think it was absolutely ridiculous that people were blowing that up and freaking out about that. But yeah, I'm a terrible name guy.
Who would if you
I'm the worst name guy you'll ever meet.
What if Baker Mayfield had the Shedeur Sanders personality and Shedeur Sanders had the Baker Mayfield incidents in college? How would they be treated?
Oh, Shedeur would be absolutely drugged through the mud and be treated absolutely unfairly.
I remember one of Baker's incidents there.
I mean, like, let me tell you something right now. Shedeur, and that's just who he is, and that's his personality. And you know what? It flipping works for him. That's who he's a very good football player. And if that's how you have to be, and if that's who you are in order to be a good football player, absolutely. But is he committing crimes or doing terrible things or stealing things from people or like being an absolute cancer or ruckus for the Colorado Buffaloes? No, he's not. Does he wear a lot of like gaudy jewelry and walk around a certain way and, is kind of peacocked? Yeah. Does that bother some people? Sure. Can I understand why it does? A little bit.
So what's the difference between Baker Mayfield and Shedeur Sanders? Baker Mayfield was not even a hesitation on he's going to be the top guy.
I just think, honestly, it might be what it really comes down to is that Baker did have a lot more success in terms of in college football.
He could only play defense against Georgia in the Rose Bowl.
Like Baker was a Heisman Trophy winner. Shedeur was not. Baker was in the college football playoff. Sure. Shedeur wasn't. Baker was the guy, like undisputed, undoubtedly the best player in college football at one point. Shedeur wasn't. But
he threw to the
Baker was playing in the Big 12. The Big 12 that Baker was playing in and the Big 12 that Shedeur was playing in are not equal. Okay. Baker was playing in the Big 12 when it was like rivaling, the SEC in terms of competition and how good it's been. There is a difference. Like, the difference is Baker Mayfield was a much better college quarterback. But in terms of, like, personality and draft stock, Shedeur definitely is getting treated way harsher. But he's still going to be a top 10 pick.
Charlie Hull, is he giving up smoking? That's what Mayor Mike says. All right, so he will not be having a dart out on the course, and while he goes to putt, putting it down on the green. People at Augusta National lose their mind.
Dude.
All of a sudden, you take it, put it down on the green,
and they always hit it like a joint too.
And then pick it back up.
Can you imagine if he took some cigarette butt and he throws it into one of the cups? Like, hey, don't put it in yet. We need an ashtray.
Hey.
Right there on the 12th hole, just a cigarette in the cup.
When we come back, we're going to talk about some hierarchy on Gary and Scott.
Oh,
forget names.
I'm always forgetting
1620 The Zone. All right, I'm old. I'm confused. I had the name Charlie Hull in my head, and I had a vision of somebody else.
Charlie Huff, because that's who I pictured.
Well, Jimmy, they look a little bit different.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You could put "I'm old and confused" on a hoodie, and I feel like it would do pretty well.
It would be historic if Charlie Hull was at Augusta playing, and while she was smoking a heater.
Who were you referring to?
I had somebody else in my head, and I was thinking of a male golfer that does not look like Charlie Hull. Okay, she looks a little bit different than most of the golfers that are out on your local muni.
I was just shaking.
But she gave up. She gave up smoking. She is. I got a brain fart. So she is the English golfer who does smoke, and it is kind of, I mean, she's not hiding it. She's walking around with a dart between the lips.
European.
I love that the U.S. Open still has John Daly. I love
that the U.S. still has John Daly.
Schmitty, Charlie. Thank you, Adam. I was thinking of Charlie Hoffman. Schmitty was over by the Hooters.
Really?
Yeah, that John Daly shows up to have an event every Augusta.
That's
weekend,
awesome.
Masters
God,
weekend.
the John Daly content that pops up on like my YouTube every once in a while. Just the guy just walks up to the first green, Diet Coke, cigarette in hand, like ripping them. Literally was golfing with Bryson DeChambeau. Steps up, no practice swings, no nothing. 30 minutes late for his tee time. Puts the ball down, stripes one, just over 300 yards.
She looks like she's on a match game.
In their prime, who would you rather play one round with, Tiger or John Daly? This probably says a lot about your personality and what you're looking to get out of it. Like in their prime, not Tiger now, but Tiger. Let's go 2001 Tiger.
I feel like 2001 Tiger was real, like intense. Like he was really in it. Like I don't know how much buddy convo I'm going to be having with Tiger.
Like John Daly.
John Daly have a good time.
John Daly would be 18 holes of party. Tiger would get upset at you.
Exactly. Like, hey, you need to pick up the pace, or it's like, hey, take your time, or like, why are you aimed left?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with John
Where
Daly.
I feel,
I like
now,
fun.
I'll tell you something right now. Tiger dad Tiger, father Tiger, like with Charlie, like with what his personality has kind of grown into. I would love to golf with Tiger now.
Tiger, you mind if I have a little grit here? I need it. I need to relax myself.
I think that Tiger Woods could probably beat me in a round of golf right now if he was on if he was on both knees the entire round. Like if he just swung from his knees, I think he would still beat me.
He's on the list of Jordan, Caitlin Clark, of stars that are bigger than their sport. That move the needle.
Okay. When you go Jordan and Caitlin Clark,
Caitlin Clark's a really good golfer. She played at the Pro-Am for John Deere Classic.
That is a good point.
And the galleries were huge. She is a pretty good golfer. I wonder where the fam belongs in Des Moines.
Here's the thing though.
Des Moines Country Club, overrated.
I've never been. Wouldn't know.
Urbandale Country Club, until they started enforcing that you have to belong there to play, it used to be good.
They do that.
The Evanston Country Club, incredible. Never been to Ridgemore though. That's like
either have I.
That's a bucket list item is Ridgemore. That's where all the Hawks are.
All right, John Walker's coming up at the top of the hour. Nebraska football now into the third week of spring ball. They ran around yesterday, and media put eyes on them.
Yeah, a lot of guys looked the part.
In the past, I would like poo-poo that, and I would say, come on. But there are some guys, like McCullough. McCullough's, so he's what, 6'5"? Like where he was at Oklahoma to where he is in a short amount of time. And then you look like his arms, that gigantic wingspan. I'm okay seeing him, but there are other guys like Ochoa and Keona Davis and Winery, like some of the defensive linemen. Like Winery looks different. I will tell you the guy that what was going on in Starkville. Gabe Moore was listed at 250. Gabe Moore is now 290, and he is a large human being. So guys do look a little bit different, but I don't dabble in that world. But I'm not going to knock people because a lot of the guys you're seeing for the first time, and you're like, well, when I last saw you, like even Cam Lenhart, Cam Lenhart looks bigger,
which is kind of crazy because when I first saw Cam Lenhart his freshman year when he was 18 coming from IMG, he already looked like a grown man.
They have more guys that look like men.
Yes.
Like not just built, but they look like they've been through it facially. No, they like look
no,
at,
you're right. No, I
like,
chuckle because
look at Alabama. You look at guys from Alabama, and guys from Alabama don't look like they're 22. That 18-year-old left tackle looks like he's in his mid-20s.
No, you're right.
So Nebraska has more guys that look like they've been through it, and they're a little bit older. I mean, they look like Elijah Judy. Elijah Judy looks very mature, and he looks older than what he actually is. So
they look like they got, and this is the thing,
that
too.
was my main takeaway from yesterday, but I know when you get to see players for the first time, and you go, Jesus, Neri, who did you eat?
There is a thing called muscle. There is a thing called, like, I learned this in just stunning, like early development, late development. Like
yourself?
Like, no, of like you, like there are people who are just like early developers, like they just like hit puberty quicker and they look bigger and they're faster.
Girls,
and they're like, well, I'm just talking about like just dudes, like they just look like you said, like adults. Way quicker.
Fully
and you look at a guy like
carpet.
Jeremiah Smith, or you look at a guy like Ryan Williams, and you're like, holy crap, how are these guys 17 or 18 years old? Like, that is, I mean, that's a thing. It's like when you get these young guys who don't look their age like that, like the best players look like that. Like you said, they look like grown-ass men facially.
So, and one guy, I'm rooting for him. I root for stories and I root for individuals that you get to know. And he worked out yesterday, and then when they went live, he went back and did his rehab behind the scenes. God, don't do it to me, Teddy.
Yeah.
Teddy looks good again. Teddy, so they're about 6'9", 6'10", 315. And just don't do it to me. He looks a lot better than the last time I saw him. But the one thing I noticed yesterday, and now that this new staff is working more, and I think why Rule likes the staff he's assembled is their teachers.
Yes.
Like Rule likes to teach, and you can tell that coaches are a lot of hands-on. And I was looking at the coaches that have the loudest voices and the more active in what position groups they're with.
Mm-hmm.
So the hierarchy of Matt Rule's coaching staff in terms of their importance.
Oh,
Matt Rule's at the top. Dana Holgerson is number 2. Number 3, Phil Snow.
Yeah.
Phil Snow has a huge role on this staff, and especially on the defensive side.
Wondered if you talk about him.
So there is a clear difference on who's doing what. If you're just with your own position group, or if you're bouncing around, or what group of players that you have. And he's working with some of the younger defensive backs. Also, I don't think it's a coincidence that 2 of the most important position groups, run the damn ball guy and stop the run, hold on for a moment, is wide receivers and defensive backs.
Yeah.
And they not only have good position coaches, whether DeKale Shorts or Addison Williams, but they have extra bodies that are with them. Verbois is with Shorts. D. Michelle is with the defensive backs. Phil Snow is spending more time with the defensive backs. So those 2 groups, which are pretty large numbers, are getting like some of the best minds that are with them. But in the hierarchy, Rule, Dana, and Phil Snow.
I think
thank you, UCLA. If they don't implode against UCLA and there's questions about the defense and there's some heads knocking, does Phil Snow get more? Does he?
Does Dana get brought? Oh, yeah. Is it as a quick fire sale?
We sent the cookies to Sean Foster. Thank you for coming in here and picking up that pass that should have been a touchdown to begin the second half. Not that I remember it.
With Phil Snow, I think when you judge a hierarchy of coaches, right? It's how much do the players care of their opinion, of that coach's opinion of them, right? And I think that Phil Snow just kind of has a presence on that field where he's walking around and coaching the DBs and not butting his head, but putting his opinions in different spots and places.
Yep.
Just with how the way he carries himself and how he's talked about by the staff, his opinion matters greatly, matters highly. And I think that you can just tell with just how he is, just his presence. That man, players, it matters a lot what Coach Snow thinks of you.
It's important because you can, when you're around him, you know the respect that Matt Rule gives to Phil Snow. So immediately as a player, you're like, I don't want to piss that guy off, and I want to know what he's all about. Like you know this. You've been your young career. You know if the higher ups, if they have respect for you, then your employees are like, okay, why does he respect him that much? Let's find out.
Yeah.
And you find out, and you're like, oh, this guy knows football. Okay, so if my head guy respects him, then I'm not going to try and pull one over on him, and I'm going to try and learn as much as possible. It also goes to his coaches. Look at there's when they had their coaches clinic. I mean, coaches on the staff are taking notes from coaches that are speaking. They just it's a good teaching staff, and I noticed in the videos that I saw yesterday, and I don't want to go overboard on reaction, but it just seems like more coaches are involved, not just standing there going, hut, keep your head up, but like are active in the drills, and they're also doing something that I noticed a little bit more. They're correcting mistakes on the field and instead of waiting to get back to the film room.
Yeah.
So in the moment you correct mistakes, and then you go and get back in line, your next rep is up. There are some staffs that would prefer, hey, we just need to run through the reps. Let's go. And we'll get up to the film room and we'll watch a practice video and we'll then correct it there.
Well, I think another thing too, you talk about when you are a younger guy and you have the respect of an older guy, then you ask those questions, why is that the case? And then just that respect kind of couples over and then they respect you. I think a great example is Deikiel Shorts, right? Where he's a guy who he's been brought in because Dana Holgerson has respected him so much, because Dana is like, no, that's my guy and this is what I need. And you have just only heard other coaches talk very highly of Deikiel. And why is that? Because he is endorsed by Dana. But then at the same time, clearly you still have to prove it. You still have to go out there and coach. But the whole point about this staff likes to train. When John Butler was on the microphone, I think it was last week, and he was talking about the differences between coaching in the NFL and coaching players. What really stuck with me is when he talked about how Matt Rule told him, hey, in the NFL, you coach, here you train. And the way that he said that and the way he articulated it, you could tell that that's something he still thinks about. That's something that he still has in the back of his mind. And I think that is the sign of an incredibly healthy coaching staff, a coaching staff that is always willing to learn from the other coaches that they are around, right? You've heard it a lot in terms of Marcus Satterfield yesterday said, man, I'm learning so much from Dana, right? And John Butler said, I've learned so much from Phil Snow. The fact that there is that kind of environment of, hey, we're going to iron sharpens iron, we're going to get better. And then that only translates to the players. Like, that's just not like a good coaching staff. That's a professional coaching staff.
Thank you, UCLA.
It's a professional coaching staff.
Thank you, UCLA. I know that day sucked. It was gray. 27-20.
Wasn't too cold, but
saw Bieniemy smiling.
Hey, don't talk about my running backs coach like that. Love me, my running backs
outside
coach.
of Memorial Stadium, I'm okay with EB. Inside of Memorial Stadium, I'll never get over 90. Wish he would have pulled a hammy when he was running around the field without his helmet on.
Good wet carpet. I'm surprised he didn't.
Yeah. John Walker will join us next. We got a lot to discuss with John Walker. It's been busy on the Creighton beat, from Kirsten Bernthal Booth stepping down the other day to what is going on in the portal.
Yeah.
As Creighton has been active, they've been successful, and we'll see what happens this week. We will also get into, we have not talked about Nebraska's portaling. One is coming back, one is going, and Fred speaks today. And I wish Fred would fight for his program. Say, 15% of that $20.5 million, I need 20.
I'm Fred Hoiberg, dang it.
All right, last hour is coming up next on 1620 The Zone. All right, time to talk to our good friend from the Omaha World Herald on the Creighton beat, and it has been busy. It is John Walker. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. It's been busy. What do you mean? What are you talking about? It's been pretty quiet and just peachy over here.
How many hours of sleep are we averaging a night right now?
I'm a night owl anyways, truthfully. I think you kind of have to be to work this job, right?
Fair enough, yeah.
But I don't know, probably like 5-6 hours.
Okay. Could be worse.
That's not too bad. Not too bad. It could be worse for sure.
Hey, we'll get to basketball. I should mention here, on a different note, Will Cooper from Millard South, who went out to Air Force, had some injuries junior and senior year at Millard South. Transfer from Air Force. He is just committed to Nebraska. We'll get into that post our chat with John here. But let's start with volleyball, because Sunday night at 7 o'clock, we all went, whoa. And then Monday morning, and you wrote a lot about this, I'm still puzzled. Walk me through, kind of as you've tried to figure this out, in the transition from somebody who I think is in the prime of her career to Brian Rosen taking over a top 10 program.
Yeah, it's I think I said in the story I wrote from Monday that it was a late Sunday stunner. Because I don't know how else you describe that. Like, absolutely none of us expected it. Like I had just gotten home from the Creighton baseball game. I covered that on Sunday. And like I said, I just gotten home and it was halfway through eating dinner and looked at my phone and said, there's absolutely no way. And, so from there, my understanding on how this all played out, I will try to give an abbreviated version because, as you guys know and can imagine, there have been a lot of moving parts to all of this. It sounded like it really all started in December, right after the season ended. They're trying to go to work in the portal to reload, and at the same time, all of these teams are calling Brian Rosen, who was named the 2024 AVCA Assistant Coach of the Year. So, the top assistant in the country. So all of these teams come calling him. He turns them down. He wants to stay at Creighton very badly. And then around that same time, League One volleyball Love reaches out to Kirsten Bernthal Booth, and she's like, okay, sounds interesting. And then those conversations got serious. She mentioned that she turned 50 this year, and that made her think, is this what I want to do? Do I want to do something else? The administrative side of volleyball has always intrigued me. I want to help grow the game. So then she really started considering it. And then more teams came after Brian Rosen, and including his alma mater, South Carolina. And, how do you turn that down? How do you turn down to be the head coach at your alma mater? Well, Brian Rosen did, because he wanted to stay at Creighton that badly. And around that same time, he didn't even know if Booth was 100% leaving. He just wanted to be at Creighton that badly. And then she finalizes things with Love, and that all really transpired in the 12 days leading up to Sunday night's announcement. And here we are. It was kind of one of those things where Booth wanted Rosen to take over. Rosen obviously wanted to take over, but nobody knew when that would be. And like I said, that all kind of snowballed into the reality over the last couple of weeks.
Is there any indication that the Creighton athletic department had advanced notice or had a idea that this was happening in the 12-day lead up? When did they find out that this was a reality?
Yeah, no, Booth. I talked to Booth, Blossom, and Rosen all separately on Monday. after the press conference, and all three of them were adamant that everyone, or at least like those three, were in the know the entire time.
Okay.
So they knew this was not a complete stunner to Booth, Blossom, and Rosen, because they kept each other in the know throughout the whole process. So yeah, I don't really think, we were all shocked just because of the timing of it all and everything. Like Booth said, she's not running from anything. So it's not like she was like, oh, this is the year I got to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She had an opportunity on the table, as she has, for the last handful of years. But she had an administrative opportunity on the table, and that, coupled with her 50th birthday, made it sound like enough to seriously make her think about it, especially when those conversations picked up with Love. And then it was just kind of all about timing. Like if I don't know, maybe there's an alternate reality where if South Carolina doesn't come after Brian Rosen, there's not the threat of him leaving enough to make Booth say, okay, well, we need to keep him here, so I'm going to take this and he can, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but all of that to say, no, nobody was shocked by it. We all were. But again, all three of them were very adamant that they kept each other in the know through the whole process.
It's kind of been interesting, and Terry Pettit, who is close to Kirsten, and he's a big reason why she got this job, and she has used him as a mentor. And he goes on Facebook and he brings up Marcus, and you've gotten to know Marcus, and I've done a couple of events with him, and maybe first and foremost, he's not Raz. I mean, Bruce Rasmussen was like the perfect athletic director for coaches, for athletes, for people that are supporters of the program, and Raz is just Raz. And so Marcus is not Raz. But as he makes the transition to, Creighton is a real athletic program that has money, that spends money, that is successful, has really, really good coaches. You've got this volleyball program that, you've got to maintain it because it has gotten to this level. He's already made the transition from baseball, with this being Ed's last year, and Mark Kingston making a big boy hire to take over for baseball. You still got Jim Flannery, but then there's Mac, who we know is on the back nine. And maybe as we speak, he's out on the back nine actually playing today. But, they have to look at the future of Creighton men's basketball, because that's the one sport that they cannot have drop to where Mac has brought it. What do you think in this whole new world of athletics, Marcus Blossom's role is in trying to take Creighton to the next level where they don't have to rev share with football, but also some older coaches transition in volleyball, and then most importantly in men's basketball, whenever that comes to fruition?
Yeah, I think he showed through the whole coach and waiting thing with Ed. I think he showed that he's willing to bridge the gap from this generation of Creighton athletics to the next, whenever that happens. We'd be fools to sit here and say that, I don't know, let's just spitball that Greg McDermott and Jim Flannery are still at Creighton a decade from now. There's no way. Because as you said, Greg McDermott would love to be on a back nine somewhere every morning. And Jim Flannery's been around for a while. So that was kind of reassuring for me to see that he was willing to kind of gracefully let Ed go out. I think if the circumstances would have been different, like I said, Booth obviously would have gone out differently. And so I think he's the guy to lead Creighton into the next era. Because like you guys said, Ras was perfect for what Creighton needed, for the 30 years, right? And obviously Ras could still do a good job now if he was, like, he's around, right? But Marcus is a kind of financial guru, if you will. And when it comes to kind of the business side of things, and guys, the fact of the matter is that is where this thing's headed.
Yeah.
Like you can't go a day in this era without talking about the numbers, whatever that means, whether it's your media rights, whether it's your portal, whether it's rev share, whatever. You cannot go a day in this college basketball, in this college athletics landscape without talking about numbers. And that's kind of where Marcus Blossom excels. And, one of the things we talked about last year, me and Marcus, I went to go talk to him in May, and he had 4 different heights of seats like you see at the CHI Health Center. And I was like, what are these for? They had like Baylor's logo and all this stuff, and they were samples. He said, well, we're trying to figure out what heights I need to have the chairs so that we can put in 2 extra rows of seats, courtside seats at the CHI. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, you're just trying to squeeze in more seats? And he said, well, I want coaches to stay here, so I need money to make that happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like he's using what he does best to help the athletic department move forward. And he got his guy in Mark Kingston. He got his guy in Brian Rosen, and who was strongly endorsed by Kirsten Bernthal Booth. And sometime, I don't know, in the next decade, for sure, we'll see how he bridges the gap from what'll be the basketball programs to the next era.
But I do think what you said, and because it's been done in baseball and kind of now in volleyball, that he is comfortable with the idea in their marquee sport of men's basketball that coach in waiting can work.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'd be foolish to think otherwise, just because, if Flan or if Mac wanted to do that, I think through the Ed situation, Marcus showed, that he'd be willing to, if that's really what anyone wanted. So.
All right, let's switch over to basketball. It's been a good week for Creighton in terms of the transfer portal. I really like the pickup of Nick Graves, Josh Dix, obviously kind of the crown jewel of what Creighton added. But you look at this roster, a lot of offense. I mean, this team is going to score a lot of points. But you got to think about the other end of the ball. My question to you, John, is how much more important does the development of Jackson McAndrew on the defensive end now become, because of this addition of high offensive players while also not kind of filling the shoes of what they're losing defensively?
Yeah, I think it's huge. But I think he showed that he had taken, massive leaps. Greg McDermott openly talked about it, that Jackson McAndrew had taken massive leaps on that end of the floor last year. So I think that was very encouraging. I really do. Because he'll develop offensively. I'm not worried about that in the slightest. I'm also go ahead.
No, you keep going. My bad.
I'm also not worried about him developing defensively with what he showed at the end of the year. So it's crucial for him to be able to develop.
So let me ask you though about Owen Freeman, because he averaged 1.8 blocks per game last year, right? And so you can trust him from the fact that he's going to be around the rim and he can get his hands on shots. At the same time, Iowa was not a good defensive team last year by any stretch of the imagination. And so when you kind of look at, you're taking a center who does have, a nice stat, but at the same time, that didn't really translate into, dominant team defense. How do you look at his defense and how it can affect the Blue Jays?
Yeah, it's going to be different. I don't think they will run a drop coverage next year. I'm not sure yet. But you wouldn't think that you'd go from 7-1 to 6-10 and still run a drop.
Yeah.
But we'll see. The fact of the matter is Owen's work at Iowa, those 1.8 blocks a game, he has really good timing. and doesn't get baited into a lot. Like, doesn't leave his feet until the right time to do so, and his timing is good. So that's what allows him to thrive defensively. But I still think you have to, like Graves can defend quite a bit, Dix can defend a bit, but one of those two guys is going to have to be, a decent, at worst, on-ball defender. Because if you have Jason Green out there, there's one.
Yeah.
But you have to have another guy out there. Is it Dix? Is it Graves? Which one would step up? You have to have another guy out there who can stop the ball.
Hey, let's as putting together this portal class, and you know this, there is great alignment from Mac to the folks that run the Bird Club, which is Creighton's collective for men's basketball. I mean, they are in alignment. They're on the same page. There's no, hey, Ed from the Bird Club went rogue and all of a sudden he dropped some money on some guy that'll never come here. But do you know the process? Because I think it's impressive in this day and age. And take out the Serbian center because they'd been recruiting him for a while. So he's not part of the portal. Here we go. The door's open. Let's go get him. But do you know how the process works? Because it seems like Creighton, when they get a visit, the prospect doesn't leave and is like, oh, I'm still considering you. They leave and they've already said yes. Do you know what goes into the visit, that it is so quick that their target, they get them to Omaha, they get the commitment, and then they're on to the next one? Like, we go from Josh Dix to Dominic Nelson is a name from Utah Valley that people are going to be hearing a lot about. Do you know how that process all works, that they've been successful in this go-around of basically we're batting 1,000, we're 3 for 3?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure how exactly the NIL component works of it, because guys, that's just the reality of covering a private school. But the recruitment process when it comes to the portal is, and I learned a lot about this last off season when I talked to Pop Isaacs, when I talked to Jemiah Neal and his representation. When you come on a visit to Creighton, the staff sits down with you and has film cut up already. And I'd imagine most schools do this, right?
Sure.
But they say, hey, here's what we've done. Here's clips from 8 years ago, or here's clips from 2 years ago, whether that's using Damian Jefferson or Baylor Shireman as an example. Here are clips of essentially you in our system. Here's what we think your game is. Here are similar players. Here's what they did in our system. And it really helps people visualize, oh, that's not, let's use Jemiah, for example. That's certainly not the type of basketball I played at Arizona State.
Yeah.
So they go, okay, I think Jemiah told me last summer, I went from playing in an offense that I had to create in to playing in an offense that creates for me. And he was able to see that on his visit. And then, the thing that every recruit mentions when they come to Creighton, I'm going to sound like a homer here. I'm not. Like, this is shockingly to me what every single recruit I've talked to has said. Volleyball, women's basketball, you name it. They're like, I felt like family as soon as I stepped on campus. So that's another huge part of it. Maybe that doesn't mean as much for a guy like Josh Dix, because his actual family is
across the river,
right down the street. You know what I mean? But when you're asking a guy like Nick Graves to take a leap of faith and go from Charlotte to halfway across the country, you've got to make people feel like that. And Fedor Zugic felt like that. And we've seen multiple transfers express that over the years. So those are the two things I think is that they give them the personalized film reel, and then just the way they treat them when they're on campus.
That's fantastic. John, as always, I'm a big admirer of the work. You had a busy week this week. Good job breaking all the stuff down with KBB, and I know you'll be busy the rest of the week.
Thanks, guys.
Johnny, talk to you soon.
That's John Walker from the Omaha World Herald. I think it's, when you're hiring somebody, and especially the marquee job at Creighton, which is men's basketball, and Mac won't be here a decade from now. They're making a push. I think they got, you think about a couple of years. Hey, how do we get to the Final Four? Okay, what do we have to do to not miss a beat? And remind people that Creighton basketball is not dead. When you lose an Ashworth and then you lose a guy whose number will be in the rafters, so you're going to be aggressive. Is if you have an athletic director, and there'll be a lot of speculation about, okay, who would be the next Creighton men's basketball coach? Will it be somebody that's connected to Creighton? Or will they just open it up because it's a national job? It's very appealing. But if you've done it one time as an athletic director, because athletic directors, they like to hire their guy.
Yeah.
Okay. They like to be able to hire their guy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've been presented with a scenario that coach in waiting is the way to go so you don't miss a beat, John Cook did a great interview with Annabelle over at Herdat about learning the lessons from T.O. to Solich of handing it off from John Cook to Danny Busboom Kelly, is that if you're comfortable as an AD, you learn the lesson that the guy that is in charge might know best of who would be the guy, if you're okay with coach in waiting, to hand the baton off when they're ready, and so that you don't miss a beat. Because Nebraska can't afford volleyball to slip. Even bigger, Creighton cannot have men's basketball slip to where they have gotten to. Not every year you're going to be knocking on the Elite Eight, but you can't have it where, you can't be.
You can't be middling in the Big East.
You can't be like 1 year, hey, we're usually third, and then we're sixth. Maybe the year after Doug, you have that, but then you can't follow it up with another sixth place finish.
You got to consistently be in the top three like you've been before that. But I think it's all about, Gary, self-awareness as an athletic director, understanding that the person that is leaving has been there longer than you have and understands the program better than you have. And that if anyone is going to know what the best decision is, you have to have the self-awareness of, I know I'm in the power chair, but they have the knowledge.
And you also got to be careful. Nebraska went through this with Eichhorst. Terry Pettit's Facebook message yesterday, that's all I could think about. Wow, he's just describing Sean Eichhorst.
Yeah.
Brandon Vogel from Counter Reed is going to join us before the hour's over on 1620 The Zone. So this is the we've referenced this a couple of times, right? And now you've seen it.
Yeah.
Terry Pettit's Facebook page. He responded to what he saw on Monday. Just read you a couple of paragraphs here. He starts out by saying, I don't know Creighton's athletic director, Marcus Blossom. As I watched the video of the press conference announcing Kirsten Bernthal Booth's departure from Creighton volleyball, I wonder if Marcus Blossom knew Kirsten. ADs are required to have multiple talents. They hire and fire coaches, and some mentor their coaches. They need to raise money for facilities and escalating salaries and provide a vision for the department in difficult times. The most important quality in leadership today is how a leader relates to their team.
That next paragraph, I feel like
I didn't see evidence that Marcus Blossom knew Kirsten and what she brought to Creighton University. There were no personal anecdotes, stories, or memories. Maybe he was in shock. Maybe this isn't a talent he has, or maybe he didn't make the effort to develop a relationship with an extraordinary human on his team. And then he finishes this way. Leadership is not a position. It is developing relationships with team members that create intimacy, vulnerability, and trust, which can lead to extraordinary success. Kirsten Bernthal Booth did that with everyone on the Creighton women's volleyball team. I did not see any evidence that Marcus Blossom shares that vision of leadership in yesterday's press conference. That was a Facebook page post by Terry Pettit. And I bet when Shawnee, of course, was at Nebraska and almost fired John Cook, he may have sent out the same thing.
I mean, it was and we talked about it yesterday, and we talked about it when it happened live here on the show. It was a weird feeling presser in a way. I mean, you just have three people sitting down there. There wasn't a big spotlight. There wasn't a true headline or really like honoring of everything that she accomplished. And it felt like a little separated in a way, and this is a guy in Terry Pettit a coach, not just a guy, I'm sorry, a coach, a legend in Terry Pettit, who has so much knowledge and so much experience when it comes not only to volleyball, but to just the inner workings and relationships in athletic departments. And, these are very interesting and very, very, I don't want to call it damning in a way, but very, I'm failing to find the right word to put it, but just kind of eye-opening insight from someone who's been in these positions before and been around these people like that. And so, I mean, the one line here that really stands out there's two lines that really stand out to me in this. I didn't see evidence that Marcus Blossom knew Kirsten and what she brought to Creighton. There was no personal anecdotes, stories, or memories. Like, that's true. I mean, you didn't really feel that personal connection between the two. And you really didn't feel like as if Marcus Blossom was mourning her departure or incredibly distraught that he's seeing someone that he's garnered a relationship with go after what she's built in Creighton volleyball. And then this is just a fact. Leadership is not a position. It is developing relationships with team members that create intimacy, vulnerability, and trust, which can lead to extraordinary success, and that's the key to a lot of things, just period, not just in athletic departments, just in relationships in general. And, that's something that, in my opinion, I agree with Coach Pettit that you have to have those things in order to create that success.
He's the first person to put it out there. I mean, Tom Chattel wrote about it in the physical copy of the newspaper about those two not getting along. And then it was fixed on the online that there was that the word conspiracy was added. Just very, very odd. Maybe we overvalue the importance of Creighton athletics and Creighton volleyball, because I think if, for example, if something like this was simmering at Nebraska and John Cook decided to step down in 2013, and you're like, wow, I guess he didn't get along with the AD, but John Cook's really, really good.
Yeah.
How long would that athletic director last?
Not very long. Not very long in that regard, but who's the speculation who's to say of
now to answer the question, Creighton athletics matters and Creighton volleyball matters.
Yes.
But I don't know, it's uncomfortable for people, and
the whole situation was the Sunday news dump to the Monday morning presser.
The whole thing is puzzling, and they'll get through it, and they will be. And Brian will have he'll be able to take the mantle and have continue to run that program. It just, did it have to happen? Again, Go to Love B. Have they put anything up on their website?
I haven't seen anything on the Twitter.
And they should be celebrating that they've gotten
This is
somebody
a big
that talented to join
freaking deal. Yes.
All right. We'll take a quick. Well,
real quick.
Where'd Jimmy go?
Real quick. Nothing on their website that Kursk and Berthal Booth is going to join their administration and do anything. If we go to Twitter real quick.
That's probably not on Twitter. Do want to mention again, Will Cooper from Millard South is transferring to Nebraska from Air Force. He had some injuries in high school, but when he was healthy, a good player at Millard South. Played last year at Air Force. At Air Force, I found this out when I was out there last year. You can transfer from Air Force. You just can't transfer in.
Huh.
Like you, by the time you are into your second year, you have to make a decision. And so if you're going to leave, like Paul Skenes, you leave after your second year. Which people forget that Paul Skenes started his career at Air Force.
I know.
Yeah.
It is a very niche. Like when Paul Skenes hopefully eventually goes into the Hall of Fame, because it'd be awesome for baseball if he has a long career like that. That'll be a very trivia question of hey, where did Paul Skenes first play college?
So Cale Jacobson, so another Nebraskan that stays.
Yeah.
I don't know that his role will be the same, but I hope they define his role because he's like one of those guys that, hey, everybody needs a Sam Hoiberg or a Cale Jacobson, but they don't need him to be playing 25 minutes a game.
They don't need them both. I mean, it's going to be hard to play
whoever can score, but also do the right thing. Now, the one thing with Cale that through the timeout in Vegas is he is a guy. So they're both hustle guys. So they're going to do things that don't show up in the box score. But Cale can handle the basketball, which will be key. He's not going to be your starting point guard. I mean, bringing Jamarcus Lawrence in, I don't know that he is super comfortable at point guard, but that's where he's going to be. But I think you have to have a role defined.
Yes.
Hey, this is what we see you. You're not going to be a 35-minute a night guy, but 15 to 20. And when you're out there, this is what we want you to do. Because the other part of the portal giveth and taketh away. Like when Nick Janowski was announced last night that he was in the portal, I was like, the person that is done with college sports and college athletics, and especially college basketball, they fought their way through the one and done era. In the portal era, they're going to be like, WTF?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Why is this guy that redshirted, that was a sharpshooter from Wisconsin, that could have fixed our ails of shooting the basketball this past season? And then he stuck around, and then the head coach talked about him. Was the head coach lying to me? Or what happened there? Or did some guys show up and Cale Jacobson had a great Vegas, and all of a sudden this guy that we're waiting on says, I'm in the portal, and you're like, I hate basketball. I hate college athletics. It's ruining college athletics. Because I could see the emotion. I did that because I really wanted to see him play at Nebraska, but there's got to be more to the story. Either Jacobson coming back and his role was going to change, or they hadn't defined the role for Janowski of, hey, you're a shooting guard, but we want you to play maybe try point guard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if Fred will get into it, but that was a little bit of a.
It was disappointing.
Confusing.
It was disappointing.
He not going to be in the rotation when you thought that he would have a chance to grab minutes in 25, 26, especially after sitting out a whole year.
It would be nice for them to have some high school guys, be able to redshirt them, and then actually see them grow with the team.
We're done recruiting high school guys.
I know. It's
high
sad.
School recruiting is done.
Sad.
High school kids, go to a prep school.
You can't redshirt anymore.
Go somewhere else and then transfer. No more high school. And a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But, Nebraska is going to rely on Rhymes. He's a high school recruit.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, why recruit high school kids anymore? Frager is going to come off his red shirt, and he's not going anywhere. He's staying, as a Lincoln kid. But it's just like that happens, and you're like, okay, well, what did we do this past year? Also, I invested in you.
Yeah.
And
what was the point?
Unless you're like, hey, I get it. You know what?
But
your skill set isn't going to be in our top 8, and thanks, just didn't work out. Oh, a lot of emotions last night.
But from Janowski's point of view, too, you could say, Nebraska's looking at him saying, what are we doing here? We invested in you. Janowski can look back at them and say, hey, I invested in this program. I took the red shirt. I've developed. I'm waiting for my role. And then now you're bringing in other players who are going to be taking that role. And then okay, so I'm just going to sit back and not play for another year?
Unless he thought, when you redshirt somebody, which I think is done these days, unless they are physically, they just need to develop. Because it's the player's decision. I mean, you present the option, and then the player with his family's got to sign off on it. If there was at some point as the season began and you saw struggles shooting the basketball from the outside, he in his head is going, why am I not playing? Why am I not playing? I should be playing.
Fred even admitted to thinking about doing it with him, and then they didn't do it.
All right, Brandon Vogel from counterread.com. I'm going to stop by next on 1620 The Zone. Nice. Any day you have Pearl Jam is good. Any day that we have Brandon Vogel from
Even better.
counterread.com is exactly even better. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Watching, reading, I shouldn't say watching, but reading your series about essentially 9 wins. I'm listening to stuff yesterday and going back to what Rule has talked about and looking at this roster. And maybe it's still a little bit too early because defensive line and offensive line has not been defined. If this is not a successful season, and however you personally define a successful 2025 season, what will be the main reason why?
Probably the two you just mentioned. I think, and the bigger question might be defensive line. Like, I think it might be better than the O line still, even with a lot still to prove on that side, but it might be a bigger drop off from what they were a year ago. And if Nebraska isn't better in the back seven, back eight, in limiting some big plays, I think you'll really notice the difference defensively. You know, one of my big questions coming into the spring because of that line was, how's Nebraska going to stop the run? Because that was the part you could just set and forget for the past two seasons. It was like Nebraska was going to be tough against the run, and it was going to keep it in a bunch of games. I'm not expecting a huge drop off, but I'm not at that level by any means. So I think that's probably it. I think the offense is a good bet to progress. It's just, is the defense going to be close to the same level it was at?
Fox's Crown is calling the Crown tournament a success. They posted yesterday that, you know, their numbers completely exceeded the NIT and the championship of the NIT and the semifinal for the NIT, and they, you know, that it's inserted itself essentially as the main off-season tournament. My question to you, Brandon, is: do you think that, and Gary kind of talked about it earlier in earlier in the week, do you think that college football, or maybe some TV networks of college football, are looking at the success of the Crown and how they've inserted themselves as the main offseason tournament? Do you think that is that's something that maybe other sports are looking at as, hey, this is an opportunity to insert ourselves as the new, non-main offseason tourney?
Interesting. I hadn't thought of it in that regard as it pertains to football, but I mean, if the numbers are as promising as they've been portrayed, maybe. I mean, we've had the idea float around, and it's like 12 problems down the line for college football, but maybe there's just a group of five tournament at some point. Like, that would be super intriguing. It's tough to do football at one site, of course, so you need to be a little bit there. But with the Crown, like, crowds early in the week were pretty limited. It kind of felt a little bit dead. Got to the weekend, things picked up, and you got the glitz of Vegas. I think it was a nice presentation for a tournament. I can tell you here in Chattanooga that NIT is bigger, at least this year. Because the Mocs took that home. I mean, and as far as the Crown itself went, like, I thought it was a pretty good event. Nebraska did what it could do, and that's good. College football, we've already seen kind of a shift towards Vegas for other things. Like, I don't think that part of it's slowing down at all.
Let's talk about tight ends, and let's talk about usage. And a guy that I think, kind of because he's not a guy that's running 25 yards down the field, is Luke Lindenmeyer, who is going to be one of the starting tight ends, might even be a captain. And it's quite the story from Papillion La Vista to getting into that role where up until now, his claim to fame is he was the guy in the end zone against Illinois. But as that room with Harburg and what they want to do with him, but then the wild card becomes Carter Nelson. I think we all sat up in our chair yesterday when they said he's at 238 and he's rehabbing from off-season surgery. So when they get him healthy, what do you think they do with him? They want to make him the best tight end, but the line that Satterfield used yesterday, the best tight end he can be. What is the best Carter Nelson realistically where he's at now?
Probably where he's at now, a little tough to assess because he's out, but I mean, I think ideally, if he comes back from injury and is on the trajectory you would have thought he was on as a kind of a high school prospect, that's probably a 30 catch guy in 2025, somewhere around there. I think Fedoni was about 25 his 2 years ago, and then had more catches less productively this year. So somewhere in there. I mean, it's really interesting. We saw Lindenmeyer have a pretty high usage rate during those Holgerson games, and I don't think that's going away. But listening to Harburg speak a little bit and then hearing some about Carter Nelson, like, those guys are two really enticing prospects athletically. And Harburg even talked a little bit about, like, he's got to learn how to be a tight end and block. And the same will largely be true for Nelson. And that's, I think, going to be the key to like their usage. They can't be a tell when they're out there. So no one's expecting them to be the best, inline or off the line blocker as a tight end this early for either of them. But they got to be able to hold their own to be able to, I think, get what you want to get out of both of them.
I think the uniqueness, Brandon, of this 3-3-5 defense over the last 2 seasons is, the different amount of guys and the different amount of looks that you see throughout a game, right? Especially on that D line. They'd shuffle a lot. They'd shuffle some things at the back end too. You would see different jacks, different rushers. It was just, it was almost sometimes a guy would make a play and be like, oh, he's out there now, right? Do you think, looking at this roster now, could you make the case that this team, with the talent that they have and what they've gotten in high school and through the portal, could be even more versatile in that regard than last year?
I think they're a more versatile linebacker. Certainly, and it's tough to say because between Reimer and Heinrich and then Bayer last year, you had and Bullock, who was kind of the heart of at least the second and third level of that defense, in my opinion. Those guys are really good, kind of straight ahead, cut from classic cloth type of linebackers. And Nebraska's going to have to fill that. Like you want some of those, but in terms of versatility, when you look at a guy like Vincent Shavers and however you want to classify him, McGahee and then Desan McCullough, I do think they've got more versatility and maybe a little bit more athletic at that spot. So they'll have a chance to mix things up if that's the way they want to go. I'm guessing it won't be quite the level though we saw from the 2 years under Tony White.
So staying on defense, and I mean, the guy that's up in the press box that's going to be in charge of the participation chart on the defensive side is going to be really, really busy because I think they're coaching themselves into options in case they have injuries, that they have guys that can play multiple positions. Mm-hmm. And if they need to replace a guy quickly, we saw what it was like at the defensive backfield.
Yeah.
Cornerback, safety, guys were bouncing back and forth, and they really struggled. But do you think they can get away with where they want to be as a top defense, having maybe depth over stars? Because I don't know that there's established stars on defense yet, but they can make up for it with a plethora of good football players.
I think so. And I think it's an interesting sort of long-term strategy in a 12-team playoff era. I think depth, and we saw like the playoff teams, we had a couple of surprises in terms of Arizona State, Indiana, SMU. But a lot of the kind of top 6 who were there at the preseason were there too. And I think what you saw among those teams is the teams that had the depth were 2 of the last playing, particularly Notre Dame and Ohio State stood out in that regard. So I think that's going to be a bigger piece of this. If the roster limits end up coming right away, or if, whatever, wherever we're at with that at this point, we talk about building a 105-man roster. I think utilizing it is going to kind of become the next front. And if Nebraska can go deep, I do think that's a way to sort of offset. Well, we just have a Abdul Carter. You don't want to take him off the field. So I think it's kind of out of necessity, but it could be turned into a strength.
A big conversation that's going on right now is the offensive line, and especially the interior part of that offensive line. What do you think the impact would be from just an optics perspective if a younger guy, who we've kind of seen develop in the program, Sam Sledge, ends up taking up the center position and emerging as that? I mean, we're getting to the point where a lot of these guys now, it's Donnie's room, right? It's Donovan Raiola's room. It's the guys that he's built up, and he's one of those guys who has been with him the entire time. What would that mean if he finally took the reins of that position?
I think that would be a great development. I mean, for players, who have, the only time I get nervous about it on the line is when you're putting a true freshman in there. And, sometimes that's because the true freshman is that good. More often than not, I think it's because, well, you had an injury or two and you're going on the guy with promise, but not a lot of experience. So as long as a younger guy has, had some time in the program, I think it's a good sign if they're legitimately beating them out. Now, you could also worry about, well, was the competition not what it should be? But for the most part, I would think, hey, somebody's got to step up and take that. We kind of look at Evans as somebody who could slide over there, but that doesn't, solve the problem the way somebody going and taking that role would. So, yeah, I think if that's where we're at the end of the spring, I would consider that a pretty significant development for Nebraska.
Let's make a total here on wide receiver catches. How many guys do you think, because you reference what maybe Carter Nelson could have healthy in catches from the tight end spot, how many wide receivers, strictly wide receivers, leave Emmett Johnson or any other running back out of this equation, how many wide receivers at Nebraska in 2025 have 40 or more catches?
I would put the number at 2.5, and I think I would be at 2, until until I get a better sense of what this Holgorsen offense looks like with a full off season to prepare. That's what would push me over to 3. Like, they may just throw the ball that much, but kind of choosing the middle ground from where they've been and where I think they're probably headed, I would go with 2. And I mean, your top 2 there, I think, are Key and Barney, prohibitive favorites. So yeah, I would be surprised if they had more than 2, particularly if you end up with a tight end getting 30 or 3 guys combining for 40 or so.
So Barney had 55 last year. Do you think Emmett Johnson will have the same amount of catches, more or less? He was at 39 last year, and remember, a good chunk of those were in the last month.
Yeah, that's higher than I would have thought for him even. So, boy, that well, that helps my underpick on 2.5, because I would expect more for Emmett. And if that's the case, you're taking some away from wide receivers. Man, I'm kind of shocked that it was that high. So yeah.
Your take yesterday on Marcus Satterfield going to the podium and just kind of admitting like, hey, this was an adverse moment, but I had to prove that I can go through it to the players.
Yeah, I'll give him a lot of credit. It's couldn't have been fun to get up there, like, you knew what it was going to be, and basically get questions along the lines of, "Hey, you got demoted. Well, what was that like?" I thought he handled it. He handled it well. And yes, just like players, just because you get demoted, the NIL money doesn't change. In this case, it's a contract. So, look, if Matt Rule and the brain trust in Nebraska said, "Hey, this is a change we need to make, but we don't want you to leave," and he's willing to do it, I think it so far works out for all sides.
Yeah. All right. What's coming up? Because I know that you said it was the final installment last week of the equation, and you laid it out perfectly on how Nebraska can win 9. I know that's not true. What's the next thing we're working on?
Yeah, for tomorrow, I'm working on something kind of highlighting, I think, what we've learned through spring so far, because I put out my kind of 3 big questions, and some new ones have gotten added to the list as we've heard the coaches and players talk a little bit. So kind of a big recap there. And then as we get a little deeper into April, it's going to be time to, last year I broke the schedule into 3 acts, and I think I'm going to do that again because this one kind of lends itself to that. So yeah, time to start, or at least time for me to start thinking ahead to games and matchups and things along those lines.
How can people subscribe to the Substack that they get at 6 a.m., a great email either from you or Aaron?
Yes, head to counterread.com, and you can find what we do there. There's a good mix. It's half and half free stories, and then half exclusive for paid subscribers. Hopefully you like what you see and want to join us and the community that we've got going over there.
Hey, fantastic, my friend. Have a great week.
You too, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Brandon.
Brandon Vogel from counterread.com. Good stuff.
Always great stuff with Brandon.
9-3. He laid it out in the equation on how Nebraska could be 9-3.
That knocking on the doorstep of the college football playoff, but if we know from anything last year, probably not there. 9-3.
It's about the games. Which ones you win? Which ones you lose?
I'm not doing this. Not in April.
All right, we'll break down the schedule tomorrow. Prepare yourself for Cincinnati. We will break down with the boys in the middle of the part of the day. Josh Hudson, who wanted to kill Nebraska baseball and then said, I think they might win tomorrow night or last night, and they won.
It's a great call by a hater.
And then there is Connor. Oh, did not see a winning baseball game last night. We'll be back with you tomorrow. A tradition like none other.
Georgia.
Thursday, Augusta on 1620 The Zone.